Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Wonderful to have you here again. G'day to everyone, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Welcome back to my tiny little elevator. This is where all the magic happens. As you can see, I've got a door here, another wall here, and not a whole lot else. But that's fine. We can do whatever we need to in whatever kind of size we need because we're just wonderful, wonderful people who are doing wonderful things. How are we all? Good to see everyone in the chat. I'm sorry it took a little bit longer there than usual. There was a small issue with me not having the alcohol. I thought I was all set up and ready to go. Then it turned out there was no alcohol anywhere, which was obviously not the situation that I want to be living in. G'day Redesanti, Bucket Ninja 31, Lugnuts Demad, always coming in with the excitement. Farsight, Vanilla Sass, I know how to pronounce it, never going to get it right because that's what I do. Dad Hammer sneaking in there. Oh, Jeekers, there's a few people in there. Jeekers, I've never said that before in my life, but there we go. Well, yep, okay, I missed a lot. Chat, I'm sorry, I missed a lot. Good to see. Captain Farsight saying I look sober. And you know what? You are 100% right. You are completely right. So let's fix that problem right now. And the best way to fix that is with rum. Kraken, please sponsor me. So we're just gonna, you know what? We better start with a triple. We should start with a triple, right? That's the way to start. Tomb King Tristan, always a fan of having one too many. I can attest to that. Lugnuts ask it. Well, look, just stick around. I have some stuff. We're going to be talking about the lists that we've got coming to Attack X. We're going to be talking about the battle plans, and then later this week. So not right now, but possibly later this week. What we're going to be looking at is potentially doing a show with the TO himself and revealing the round one matchups live. Which would be kind of cool. That'd be fun to see. So if we can make that happen, we'll definitely make that happen, and we'll put ourselves in a happy place. But g'day Nemesis, good to see you there. Future Dan. Future Dan is a sex robot sent from the future who's lost all of his powers. Ooh, wow, that's a lot stronger. But cheers, beautiful people. Wonderful to have you once again. Wonderful to have you here. But as with everything, before we do anything else today, we will start the all-important one. There we go. Yep, went to the stinger. Didn't mean to go to the stinger. We're going to be sending nudes. We're going to start by sending nudes there. Now, I do only have one nude for us this week because things went a little bit hectic today, and the show prep that I would normally have a lot of time to do, I did not get. So the only nude that we have, the only one that I could quickly pull and pull into OBS in time is this lovely one that I got sent last week. Unfortunately, it was a little bit too late to make the stream. Now, Mr. Tomb King himself, you will no doubt know what I'm about to show. And to be honest, it's actually like a genuine nude, which is surprising, I guess. It's a nude that definitely deserves the term because there's a lot of groin, but also a lot of love. And that's this lovely little edit here. Now, for those who haven't seen it, Send Nudes is Nudes, nice unique drawings everyone scribbled. And what we have here is a little just fucking Photoshop monstrosity of the new Mortark of the Bone people, all decked out as a bit of a Tomb King with a couple of little Tomb King water horses pulling him along there. And I've got to say, his groin plate is intimidating. I am very intimidated by his crutch plate. It makes me uncomfortable, mostly because mine wouldn't need to be that big, and also because I feel like it would put me in too much danger. Now, I dig this. I'm liking what it's doing. I'm liking where it's going. I also kind of feel like, yes, he is definitely the new Cetra. Probably. Definitely, it's Cetra. You know what? It's Cetra after he's taken a little bit of time for himself, probably done a bit of manscaping, gotten himself a personal trainer that he didn't really pay a lot of attention to, but he also took up smoking, so he lost a lot of weight, probably did a lot of drugs, and so Cetra then went muscle boy. So Cetra obviously went and did a whole lot of roids, and like never skipped leg day, but also never skipped upper body and neck day. And he turned himself into an absolute beast. This is bro Cetra, I feel. If it's anything like that. Yeah, Tim King Tristan, yeah, the suck up lame wad, yeah, I think that's fair. But this guy definitely goes to music festivals wearing only really short shorts, no shirt, and then like a fanny pack strapped across his abs. That's what New Cetra does. I'm sorry, Tim King Tristan. I'm sorry. You're a mod, so it means that you can probably ban me in the chat. But I'm just putting it out there that's what New Cetra looks like. Cetra does not squat. No, he doesn't squat. The ground just like comes up to him. He doesn't go down to the ground. Cetra doesn't lower himself to such a pathetic level. But that look, it's a nice nude. It's hopeful. It makes me feel things and it makes me believe. So I'm gonna give this 2 eliminated allegiances out of the General's Handbook. That's what I'm going to score this a 2 out of 2 for eliminated allegiances from the General's Handbook. And I think I'm quite happy with that. It's nice, it's beautiful, it's hopeful. It makes me feel like maybe there's a chance that he could see it, but of course we probably won't. Because Cetra obviously is a Stormcast, right? Like Cetrus the and his imperishables rather. To be interested in planning to ban me from the chat for hate speech, which is probably fair enough. Now, before we get on to Attack X, and I promise we're going to talk tournament stuff very, very soon, the thing that I'd like to chat about first is Gotrek. Now, I saw a lot of mixed responses to Gotrek over the week. Some people thought it was fucking awesome. Some people think he's overpowered. Some people think it's ridiculous. But I just straight up loved it. And I'm biased, but for the first time, okay, this is where it gets me, right? For the first time, we have a named character who has like not just like books, but an entire lineage of stories about how much of a badass he is. Nagash ain't got shit on Gotrek, okay? Like Gotrek has never died and then had to mumble his way around for several million years. He got killed once by Grimnir, and then that was it. And then Grimnir was like, oh, yo, hey, come back to life, though. I need you to fight unending waves of fucking death in the Eye of Chaos, basically, for the rest of time. And Gotrek was like, fuck, yes! So, Gotrek has it on just about every other god out there. Sigmar, fuck off. Gotrek could take him in a heartbeat. All of them. Alariel, fuck me. If you think that Alariel could take Gotrek, you've got another think coming. Like, just every single one you pull out there, Tyrion and Teclis can have all of their little brain shit going on. And one of my favorite things about Gotrek in all of the old stories was that there would be people who were master manipulators and who'd put together all these grand plans. And Gotrek was just like a fucking battering ram. And he was like, I see your intelligence and I raise you 2 gigantic fists. And they're like, yes, that's the one thing I didn't think about is that if you cut off my fucking head, none of this works. Like nuts to mad, I very much doubt that Gorkamorka could take him. I very much doubt it. I think he's just like, he currently has one of the strongest weapons in the mortal realms with that axe. Just the most dangerous goddamn axe in the mortal realms. And it's not as good as his old one. Like that, just put that into perspective. He is still beating the shit out of stuff, and it's with subpar equipment that is considered by the Fire Slayers to be the finest axe they ever made. Jesus! So, just to wind it all back, I really dig his rules. He is 8 wounds for 500 plus points. That's a quarter of your army for 8 wounds. Now, yes, you can argue that he's got a 4-up save, a 3-up DPR, and he only ever takes 1 wound at a time from things. But at the end of the day, Free Guild dropping a ton of shots on him. He is definitely a death by 1,000 cuts kind of hero. And yes, he will go through a whole lot of stuff, but you're going to have to work a lot to get him there and keep him safe because he can't teleport. He moves 4 inches a turn. Like at best, I think if you threw out the cogs, you can potentially he's moving 6 inches a turn. He is not going fast. He can run and whatnot, but at the end of the day, I just think he is a really greatly put together rule set for a character that I think points wise is very much worth his points. Because to be honest, if you get matched up against me, if I was playing Gotrek, I hate to say it, like just doing the little numbers, I take him out turn one. Like turn one, I've got enough shots that I take a quarter of my opponent's army off the board. And even assuming I'm at -2 to hit him. So he isn't invulnerable, but what he is finally a character that is as badass as he should be. And given that he is arguably the most badass character that the world of Warhammer and Age of Sigmar has ever had, he is our Chuck Norris. He is our The Rock. He is he's our Ripley. He's our fucking Ripley. That's it. Chat, comment what other action stars you think Gotrek is. But Gotrek is our fucking Ripley. Gotrek, like, dives into the lava and grabs the xenomorph to stop it getting out. Like, that's Gotrek. So anyone who wants to take a shot at that and say that he's a little bit too much or whatnot, they can just shut up, because I'm a big fan. I like it. And I think it's that natural fear that he's going to fucking ruin everything and destroy all of the stuff. But I seriously doubt it. I think he's going to come in a really good place. I think he's going to make it really awesome. And I honestly can't wait to see him, because your opponent puts Gotrek on the table. You're like, fuck, that's rough. But at the same time, it's only 8 wounds. Compare that to a damn Celestant Prime. Now, Celestant Prime is scary when it's in the sky, and it's scary the turn it comes down. But after that, you're like, 3-up save, 8 wounds, no DPR. You are going down like a sack of potatoes. Whereas Gotrek, not like that. One Punch Man. Yeah, One Punch Man. The Terminator, I like that. Can Gotrek kill Gotrek? Probably not. They're probably too evenly matched. They just like keep running into each other and bouncing off. Now, the only other thing I'd like to see is rules potentially for Malineth. And there's been a little bit of chat about Felix as well. I actually think it'd be great if Gotrek never finds Felix, but also never gives up looking for Felix. Because would that not just be fucking devastating? And one of the things that was great about their old books is that, like, whenever good stuff happened, it was always kind of just crushed by the overwhelming realization of the world that they were in. Like, I remember them saving a city, right? Like, I think it was Nuln. They'd saved a city, and then they didn't get fucking paid. At the end, they just kind of got drunk and went off with nothing. Like, they were the heroes that had stopped all the bad shit from happening, and they scored 0 fucking stuff. So yeah, it was awesome. Dadhammer saying, yeah, he sort of accepts at the end that Felix is potentially gone, but in the same way that he's still looking for his axe, I reckon he's never going to give up looking for Felix. Tomb King Tristan saying adding a Night Quester to boost him is a good idea. Now, to be honest, the Night Quester that's the model, for those who aren't aware, that you get from Warhammer World. I think I have one floating around somewhere, but I'm not too familiar with the War Scroll. So let's have a cheeky little peek, shall we? All together, let's have join in, grab out your phones, grab out your whatever. Let's check out this Night Quester and see what we get there. Night Quester. Oh no, sorry. The Night Quester is from Silver Tower. You correct me. Yes, Silver Tower is right. You can do stuff. So what, like comboing the two of them? So he rerolls save rolls. If he's within 6 inches of an enemy hero when he makes a pile in, he can pile in an extra 3. Not bad. So the two of them together would be a bit of a badass 1-2. So they're both kind of like they're both kind of like the badass like solo boys that like rock together. So that'd be kind of all right. Like Gotrek and his little mate that's a Stormcast that he doesn't really respect, but kind of does. Because if you think about it, Gotrek just wants to die. So Stormcast would be like total anathema to him, because he'd be like, you are like the version of me that can never kick the bucket, which I don't think he'd be stoked about. Anyway, long story short, I'm fucking stoked about Gotrek. I love his rules. I really, really like how brutal he is. He is just a powerhouse. And the two things about Gotrek is that he always refused to die, and he just kept on fighting. And so yeah, I dig it. I like it, and I think I'm in. I'm liking him. I can't wait to get him. The only thing that disappoints me is that I'll be at Attack X when he is released, so I'm not going to be able to like put him together and paint him immediately. Which does hurt my tiny little soul, but yeah, I can live with that. I can live with that. Vanilla just asks, you want to see Gotrek die and then Sigmar resurrect him. And then Gotrek would just, wail on Sigmar and be like, you fuckstick. I was happy. Well, also, if you think about it, Gotrek's been living with some brutal shame for a very long time. He is the world's worst slayer, and I think that is great. I love that being the worst at his job is what fucks him up. Bless his cotton socks, he does try. But anyway, we are here to now talk. We're talking about Attack X. Redsef saying, it's okay, he moves slowly so I can catch up to him and paint him next week. Now, I think the thing I do just want to finish with the Gotrek thing. A lot of people raging about how durable he is, and I do agree that he is tough to kill. However, with enough attacks, he dies in a turn, in potentially one goddamn round. Dadhammer, Gotrek's sin was 100%. It wasn't just kinslaying, I believe it was kingslaying. Which was so like his actually Bill Robertson, a little bit of fun fact. Now I the last time I read a lot of these books was a couple of years back. However, I fucking love them. I've read them a ton of times, and it's funny, the books, most of the books say like, oh, he never really talks about it, but there's one book where he goes into the Chaos Wastes and starts having all of these like visions of the past and shit, and it's also a combo of him and Snorri Nosebiter. So Snorri Nosebiter became a slayer because he fucked up and kind of got Gotrek into the slaying business. But basically, long story short, Gotrek's and Snorri went off. Gotrek was an engineer. Fun fact, he was an engineer and an adventurer, and they went off to go into the Chaos Wastes. They had this terrible plan that they then matched with a second, slightly better, but still not great plan. So they went adventuring into the Chaos Wastes to get to this lost Karag that was kind of trapped in time. And so they got there, they were using like basically land tanks, like early versions of the steam tank. Unfortunately, they were traveling along the ground, so they were constantly being attacked. All the dust of chaos fucked them up, and even with their resistance, mutated a bunch of dwarves. A handful of them finally got out and survived. When they got back, basically there was a big old hullabaloo, and they were kind of ostracized a little bit for it. Now, where it started was that, so Gotrek had a family, wife, family, all that jazz. They're on the way back. Snorri Nosebiter and Gotrek get drunk, and Snorri convinced Gotrek to get super fucking drunk. So they didn't make it back to the family. The house got raided that evening by goblins, I believe, and his wife and kid were killed. So Snorri basically becomes a slayer because he blames himself for getting Gotrek drunk, stopping him getting home to his family. So he blames himself for Gotrek's family's death. Now, Gotrek goes to the king and is like, hey, king, these fucking goblins, I believe it was. Yeah, I think it was goblins, killed my family. Let's put a crew together. We're going to go and kill them. And then basically the king or Thane and his like retinue just started mocking Gotrek. And saying, like maybe if you'd been better, your family would have survived. Or look at it, because he was a bit shamed by the whole Chaos Waste things. Like, look at him, he can't even do this, he can't do this. All he is big talk and all that stuff. Basically mocking him to his face about the death of his wife and child. And it's kind of hinted that basically Grimnir, the essence of Grimnir was like, cool, this guy's going to be my dude. And so like kind of basically stoked his rage. And anyway, Gotrek basically went blackout rage drunk, murdered the Thane/king, all the bodyguards, like cleaned out the whole throne room, and then shaved his beard and went slayer. And most like dwarves back in the old world kind of knew it. Like they knew why he'd ended up that way. So it was real fucking intense. But so he wasn't just a kinslayer, he was a kingslayer, and he'd gotten his family killed. So like, he was like pretty much the epitome of fucked up as far as slayers went. And then there was also like the whole thing with Grimnir like raging him out too. But yeah, cool, Bunny, good to see you. I missed the chat. I love talking about Gotrek. Fucking love Gotrek and Felix. They're amazing. Except for that time they killed a kid. That was real messed up. hopefully less kid killing in the mortal realms. But like, it was still a really cool story. Cool Bunny, yep, drop it in just in time to see that. Cool Bunny, they became jerks when they got depravity points and they didn't ever change it. Retsef, Snorri convinced Gotrek to get drunk. Can't imagine that was a long conversation. There's a wicked scene where they show up in like Kislev and they're all drinking vodka and they go and they get a bucket for Snorri Nosebiter because a regular glass of vodka won't be enough of him. It's great. Bucket Ninja, you're on the app. Is there a link you can use to send this stream to a buddy also heading to the event? Yes, there probably is. I don't know what it is though. Tomb King Tristan, if you're in the chat, being that you are much better at all of this jazz and I'm just an idiot with a camera, if you could throw a link there. Oh, yeah, Retsef already all over it. Yeah, Bill Robertson, basically there's no loophole if the king is a gigantic douchebag. Actually, what's really cool is that dwarves are traditionally assholes to each other, like on the daily, because they all consider each other, they consider themselves to be inferior to their ancestors, which means they consider each other to be inferior to their ancestors. Like, there was really only one or two like the dwarves in the old world that were kind of well respected. One was Carrag the Grim, who was like this ancient rune lord, but even he was like, nah, I'm nothing, I'm shit compared to the blokes in front of me. And the other one was Thorgrim Grudgebearer, because he was the bloke who crossed out the most fucking grudges in the Book of Grudges. So dwarves were like, this guy, he's alright, yeah. Oh yeah, Grommenbrindle, yes, you are right. Lugnut's mad though. Grommenbrindle, the White Dwarf, is kind of a mythical figure, like whether he exists or not. Okay, all good, Daniel. You're more than just a face on Gary. You're also a face sitting across the table drinking a pint. Yes, I am, and I will be this weekend. Yeah, Grommenbrindle is like the White Dwarf. So Grommenbrindle is actually supposed to be one of the ancient kind of founding father of the dwarves, who was super good bros with the elves back when the world that was kind of first formed. And like he was, can I just say, Grommenbrindle was also the first dwarf to fucking travel in bolts of lightning. So fuck off, Stormcast. You done stole that. Whoever wants to clip that Grommenbrindle travelled in lightning before it was cool. Sigmar can eat a sack of dicks. It's called being Stormborn, and he didn't like it because it singed like a millimeter off the end of his beard every time he did it from the lightning, and so he fucking hated it. And like when the rune that used to let him do that finally broke, he was kind of like fuck, but also eh. And the best part of it was that he was fighting with an elf. Pre-War of the Beard, way before the War of the Beard. He was fighting with the Elven High King, the original Elven High King, the one that they all fucking want to be. And it was just the two of them fighting back to back. And they're like, oh, we're about to get fucked up here. Yeah, all right. So he calls his drag and he's like, do you want to ride? And the dwarf's just like, fuck off, mate. Piss off to your little Uber. I've got way better things to get around. And then like a bolt of lightning just zapped him where he wanted to be. But I still don't think that Grommenbrindle could take Gotrek, because to be honest, Gotrek is just the biggest goddamn badass in the world. And to finish what I was saying before, I have no problem with Gotrek's durability because, say, unlike Morathi, Gotrek can die in a turn. Morathi, if you don't have endless spells on the board or something to disable an ability or whatnot, you can guarantee how long she survives. So you can put her on an objective and go, I know, like in Duality of Death, you sit her on an objective, you turn her big, and you go, even if shit goes bad, she survives for 2 turns on that objective. You cannot take it for 2 turns. Dad Hammer pointing out, Gotrek actually bore the White Dwarf into battle alongside Joseph Bugman. Yeah, there's a wicked old model. My Gotrek model in my army is that model. And there was Gotrek and Bugman carrying a shield that the White Dwarf was on top of. It was wicked. It was a great model. I fucking love it. Anyway, we have so much to talk about. We have to talk about Attack X. So we're talking about the event today. Now, I've only managed to prep a handful of what I'd like to talk about. So we're going to talk about lists. We're going to talk about some of the missions. If you're in the chat and you have anything you want to throw in, jump in, because what I don't want to do is remove anyone's ability to play the game. And by that I mean, like, if your army has something that it does, I'm not going to be like, this is its surprise move, don't let that fucking happen to you, because that's just basically taking a lot of armies' abilities away. But in the same thing, I kind of want to point out like what armies are looking cool, why I think they're good. So I've picked two from each Grand Alliance. Two from each Grand Alliance that I'd like to talk about. In almost all of them, one is because it's pretty fucking badass, and then another one that I think is just fucking ridiculous and fun. But first of all, before we even begin, let's just have a look at that little allegiance breakdown we got there. Now I'm going to see if I can get the data to LLV at some point this week to get even tighter specs on this. However, this is what we're looking at as the breakdown right now. So no real surprises that Order's up there. Stormcast Eternals are always popular and they do well. They've got a few different builds at the moment, and Daughters of Cain also being up there. Now what's really cool, really cool, did someone just clip me saying Sigmar can eat a bag of dicks? Great, yep, good. Cool Bunny saying your list is really cool, but it suffers from user error. How many? Cool Bunny, I'm going to ask you. It's a Slanesh list. How many keepers on average do you summon? Just out of curiosity, just how many? Because that'd be interesting to know. Cool Bunny hates dwarves but loves Gotrek. Everyone should love Gotrek. He's a big old sex beast. Retsef, Gotrek and Marathi just sitting on objectives in midfield being asshats. It might be, but it only works on those hero-based objectives because they're still only one model and objectives have a 6-inch range. They've only got a 3-inch pile-in. So you can outscore them quite comfortably. Lugnuts, you just hang on about the army thing. We might get to that in just a second. So Destruction, massively underrepresented comparatively, only just almost half of Order and a good chunk less. Though I gotta say, looking at the breakdown, like let's just think about it for a second, right? It used to be we saw a massive dominance in Order. Order was 50% or more at most events. Order coming down to a third, I'm fine with that. They've been in every starter box. There's so many different Sylvaneths out. There's so many things people want to be playing. There's actually a couple of Seraphon armies, which is freaking awesome, that are coming too. And we haven't seen a lot of Seraphon lately. I think that people kind of leaned away from them, but there's a number of Seraphon army. There's a really attractive Dispossessed player coming. There's a decent little whacker Sylvaneth in there too. But yeah, so it's no surprise really that Order is so well represented. What's surprising is how much less there is compared to the other factions. Because realistically, Chaos, we've had a bunch of really strong Chaos releases. I mean, Zinch and Nurgle used to be the tippity top. Now it's definitely Slanesh and Khorne, but there's still just about a quarter of the list. Now, Death has come a long way from where it fucking was. The Legions of Nagash, there's actually a lot of Nighthaunt. No Legion of Grief, which is interesting. I kind of thought that by now we'd be seeing a lot more Legion of Grief. But there's even, there's Flesh Eater Courts. Of course there's fucking Flesh Eater Courts. You can't turn left and swing a cat without hitting a Flesh Eater Courts player. They came out of the woodwork and they were all like, oh no, but I was into it before they were good. And you're like, oh really, why isn't any of your shit painted? They're like, oh, because I was painting trees. Anyway, there's a cool bit of Legion of Blood as well. Which I'm like, great. I'm liking that we're seeing more legions. We're seeing like Legion of Sacrament, Legion of Blood. I mean, Grand Host of Nagash is obviously the OG, but there's different ones floating around instead of just the same shit that we see all the time. Lugnuts to Mad, your buddy is Flesh Eater Courts. He had them before the Battle Tome, but did he play them? Fucking every person and their dog owned Flesh Eater Courts before the Battle Tome, and they were like, yeah, I've got them, but they never painted them and they never played them. They maybe built half of them, tried a couple of test games, and then they abandoned them. Now this is what I'm going to tell everyone. If Dispossessed one day like start breaking through all the barriers and topping every goddamn tournament, which they are about to do at Attack X, because I heard the Dispossessed player is really good, but if Dispossessed do that, I will 100% be like, yeah, I was playing them religiously before they were cool. All you fucking Slanesh and Flesh Eater Courts players, you were like, hey, I heard that we're good now. Oh yeah, no, I've already got it. If you genuinely have a beautifully painted army that you did beforehand, then fine, do your thing. You're lovely. So Cool Bunny offering to bring some perfume so that we all smell the right army. Some of you may remember we did a show on the scents of Sigmar. Bill Robertson was all about Flesh Eater Courts before Age of Sigmar existed. Yeah, that's fine. If you've rebased from squares, you have carte blanche to do whatever the fuck you want. Lugnut's the Mad is going to smell like Brute, which some of you may recall is the scent that Ironjaws is supposed to smell like. Dad Hammer saying that he just wants to point out he played Cities of Sigmar before they were cool. Ditto, except I was playing Living City, so I'll probably never go back there because now it's full of fucking trees and Slanesh people, and that's not right. Cheers. But it's just really good to see, and it's obvious, like, with the support in the Chaos factions, with the support in the Death factions, we're starting to see, like, that parity between the allegiances, and I think that's awesome. Now, yes, there are some that are super strong and better than all of the others. However, at the end of the day, it's awesome to see that. Now, I think that when we get the new Uruk Warclans book, and I am so certain there's like a Gutbusters mixed ogre book, I'm so certain I'm having my army shipped at an exceedingly expensive cost from Australia so that I can play it when it comes out. I think we'll see destruction get back up into that 20-22%, and we'll have pretty even, which I think is cool, because looking at Attack X, the thing that I'm super excited about is that there's no massive dominance of any particular allegiance. And that is always a massive killer for me. When it's like, you go to a tournament, I remember going to tournaments when Stormcast were just everywhere, and there would be more than 10% of the players alone would be playing Stormcast, and they'd all be quite similar lists. And so before you even went anywhere, you had to ask yourself, cool, how do I beat Stormcast? Because I'm going to play him probably once, if I do okay, twice. And there were people who went and they were like, I played 3 games against Stormcast. I played 5 games, and 60% of them were fucking Stormcast. But looking at the allegiance breakdown, there's actually a great mix here. Even Destruction, okay? Destruction, there's Grand Alliance Destruction, Ironjaws, and then there's Beast Claw Raiders and a cool little Beast Claw Raiders combo list, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Of the Khorne factions, I'm kind of Chaos, I'm kind of dispossessed. I'm kind of disappointed that it's pretty much just 2 of them. It's Khorne and Slanesh. So if you are coming and you're not playing Khorne or Slanesh, they are probably 2 of the ones to keep an eye out for. Khorne they've kind of been the silent assassin, except for the fact that they'd always be screaming about it in the stats recently. Where Slanesh kind of dominates the top of the tiers, Khorne keeps getting these really good results. Like, they'll get people in the top 3, the top 2, the top 5. Like, they haven't really cracked 1, but they consistently get up there. And I think that they're a dark horse in the competition. Slanesh, everyone knows to watch out for. Flesh Eater Courts we're still seeing do well as well, and Stormcast are kind of pretty steady. Lugnuts, your buddy is Khorne. Is your other buddy playing the one with the dragon? Because that's what I'd like to know. I want to know who's got that big fuck-off dragon. I've only seen it once before in my life. And the table was bowing underneath it where it was. So yeah, it's always terrifying to see a model that is so heavy, the table is struggling to bear its weight. But yeah, the stats. Yeah, LOV, you're here. Beautiful. Lovely to see you. This is the best stats I could do, LOV. For those who aren't aware, LOV is our stats machine, puts it all together, creates all of the data that us idiots then interpret, probably in the wrong way. But yeah, it's really, really cool. LOV, I'm going to see if I can flick you some stats at some point. Maybe we'll see if we can get some kind of crazy breakdown for it to share as well. Bucket Ninja, is Richard B in the chat? The other Beast Call Raider, you've got a question regarding the battalion that came up in practice. My opponent thought what I thought I could do, I could not. Jesus, that's a very confusing thing. But I think I know the list you're talking about, and we will talk about it in just a second. And in fact, let's have a chat about some of the lists because you know what? Why the fuck not? Now, the first list that let's have a look. Let's have a cheeky little look at destruction first, shall we? And given that we were just speaking about a destruction list there that LOV's just like thirsty for the stats. So thirsty. So we'll start with destruction because Lugnuts, I know that you're a very violent person and I don't want to fucking mess with you. And you've been patiently or impatiently waiting. So we're going to start with that. So we're going to start with this is one of the Beast Claw Raiders lists. Now, I didn't have time to put them both together, but we're going to talk about the other Beast Claw Raiders list because I love them both and they're super, super interesting. Now, this is... So when I was putting together an ogre army, I was really tempted to do a list along these lines. I think it is really, really interesting, and it's based around the Bragoth's Beast Hammer formation. And so this list is appropriately called Bragoth's Mad Cow Blood Guzzlers, which just, that tickles me in a good place. It makes me feel like something special and something really, emotionally touching is going to happen. Now, this is played by Tyler. Now, I don't know if you're in the chat. I think potentially you might be. But you'll be LOV is going to be firing up the stats machine and putting it together just to get it crammed in again. Obviously, it takes a little bit of time to put it together. Definitely. So LOV wants player versus player, round versus round. LOV is we basically bring him out after a General's Handbook's had enough time. You just thaw him out like Demolition Man, for those who've seen that amazing movie from the 90s. Don't know. Now, Bragoth's Beast Hammer is a really, really cool formation that has Gore Grunters in it. And so Bornfang Gore Grunters and then a Frost Lord on Stonehorn, I believe, unless I miss my guess. So then this list that we're looking at here has two other drops outside of it. It's got a Fungoid Cave Shaman just for a good bit of spell, which is always helpful. And then an additional Thunder Tusk. Just, I'm assuming, for that fucking 6 mortal wounds on a 2-up, you monster. But the cool thing about the formation, and if someone's in the chat who knows better than me, is that the Bragoth's Beast Hammer, if units are near each other, they get to compete with each other. And in doing so, they get +1 to hit. Now, Mournfang are wicked, but the thing that lets them down is that they hit on a fucking 4-up. That is an absolute goddamn nightmare. And it's actually really hard to get +1 to hit, or it was, really hard to get +1 to hit. Now, flip that now where we've got these extra command abilities, where you can use a command point to get reroll 1s to hit in the combat phase if a unit's wholly within 18 of your general, and suddenly what that means is that these units, the Mournfang with their big fucking brutal lists, mark time, these are tournament lists. LOV pointing out the Burning Head. Yes, that is another way to get it, but it's dependent on casting it, your opponent not moving it away, and you not accidentally hurting yourself. I think Burning Head's better for shooting, whereas this is just awesome. A command point, and those Mournfang, those like units of 4 Mournfang, suddenly become terrifying. Especially, I'm assuming they've got Gargant Hackers, which are damage fucking 3, rend 1, and the problem is that they're only 2 attacks each. They hit on 4s, and then they wound on 3s. But if all of a sudden you're hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, those Mournfang just become super terrifying. Now your Gore Grunters largely, there's 6 Gore Grunters in there. They're probably mostly for screens and to be getting those +1s to hit. And Vanilla Sass pointing out in the chat, also once per game charged units can fight twice, which is probably going to be quite easy given that there's cogs in it. Now, it definitely suffers from not having that many bodies, but I actually think that this list is going to surprise a lot of people. I think it might take people a lot by surprise in regards to how hard it can hit them, how quickly, and then how durable it is in return. The only thing I will say is that this list is Slaaneash's wet dream. Like, somewhere there's a Slaanesh player watching this that's just like, oh, I see you have only a handful of models, but a lot of wounds. You're like even sexier than Stormcast. Because that's honestly all that a Slaanesh player sees in this. They just see a ton of depravity points. They're like, I don't even, what is it? It's 108 wounds. 108 wounds, and there's what, how many models? 1, 2, 3, and then plus God damn, 6, 10, so it's got 9, what's that, 13, 17. There's 17 models and 108 wounds. Sweet Betty Dingus. Bucket Ninja, your Tyler. Well, there you go. I'm talking about your list. So you're going to have a great one. You can have a great one against a number of armies that you're going to surprise the shit out of. But like, let's just be honest. Slaanesh is your nightmare, right? Like, because I reckon it's so fun, but I also reckon it's so cool. Cool Bunny's just like, did someone say depravity? It's just like summoned you. Someone went multi-wound models, and she was like, what? You're basically the golem of depravity points, and I dig it. I love it. Like, accept what you love. The depravity is too damn high. So what I think it's this army gives up potentially 101 depravity points. 91 depravity points, which is kind of terrifying. But at the same time, I feel like it's got the punch to just shut a lot of shit down, and the mortal wounds as well to really weaken those keepers before they get in. So I kind of dig it. I like it. I also love that it's fast. It's effectively Destruction Bretonia. I don't know if you realized you built that, Bucket Ninja, but you've built a Destruction Bretonia army, and your Fungoid Cave Shaman is the Lady of the Lake. Like, I'm assuming its little, like, spore squig is effectively its, like, chalice, but these are Bretonians. These are big, sweaty, hairy, semi-naked ogres and orcs that are just rocking around, questing. They're knights. So yeah, it's a nice one. I really like it. I think it's going to be fun. I'm kind of keen to see how it does. It's a formation that I've always wanted to play. So just because it looks so fucking cool. So yeah, I dig it, and yeah, I'm kind of excited to see how it plays out. We'll see, I guess, whether it works or whether it doesn't. But yeah, it's rad. It's cool. Now, the other Beastclaw Raiders list, just super quickly. No formation whatsoever, but a real fun little combo here. And close to my heart, even though I just gestured to my chest, close to my nips, because it has some Dispossessed in it. And so it just super quickly to run you through it. It's a Beastclaw Raiders list. Frostlord on Stonehorn leading, Huskguard on Thunder Tusk for those fucking balls and the healing. Then another unit, there's a second Stonehorn Beast Riders, so there's Moo Cows everywhere. 2 units of 2 Mournfang, which, I don't know, I guess for me, Mournfang packs in 2s don't seem to have just the punch to kind of get through. However, they are great with 6 wounds apiece, I think. They're really good at like screening, and they're big bases. They're great at zoning stuff out, and they're pretty decent bully units as well. And then 5 units of 2 Frost Sabers, which they're not going to win the game, but Jesus Christ, they're just going to flood across the board, causing problems, screening, blocking, delaying, getting on objectives. It's awesome. I'm very concerned that there's Bretonia Ogres. Sorry, Retsef coming in, Bretonia Ogres. That's what we were talking about. Bucket Ninja saying you're not sold on the Thunder Tusk, but yeah, hoping to avoid Slaanesh. I don't want to spoil your day, but that's going to be hard. But yeah, at the end of the day, 1 Thunder Tusk is a nightmare for all those armies with 5 wound heroes. And I feel like if I had a Beastclaw Raiders army, I would be taking it. Just for that one little thing where you're like, cool, they're within range, I use a command point to run, and I can still run and shoot because it's an ability, and then bang, 2 up, 6 mortal wounds, take it off the table. It fucks up all of my heroes, it fucks up a lot of armies. Stormcast, gone. Sylvaneth, even Slaanesh, a lot of them, because they've got a lot of small heroes. Usually Slaanesh players like to throw their keepers forwards and then use their other heroes as like a summoning battery in the back. You get a Thunder Tusk near there and you're like, sweet, 6 mortal wounds, off the fucking table you go. It's a very different game. Cool Bunny concerned with how many people are going to be wearing Brute. There are a number of Ironjawz players. And it'll be the Crimson Paw is new to AOS, and what is Depravity? That's actually, you know what? I will tell you, but I feel like I don't want to, because bless, just somebody who hasn't suffered at the hands of Depravity points yet doesn't need to be hurt. It's basically, if you're a Slaanesh player, Depravity is awesome. And it's just the fucking best. But if you're not a Slanesh player, depravity is a thing that they shouldn't get. Basically, depravity is when you cause a wound or a mortal wound with one of your heroes, or a wound or a mortal wound is caused... Wait. When one of your heroes causes a wound or a mortal wound to a model that doesn't kill that model, you get a depravity point. You also get a depravity point whenever a wound or a mortal wound is caused to one of your heroes that doesn't kill them. So let's say you've got a 16 wound hero. By the time it dies, it's given you 15 depravity points. Now, those depravity points are used for summoning in a Slanesh army to bring models onto the table. The thing that people find really fucking frustrating is that Slanesh players seem to be summoning an average of 1,500 goddamn points in a 2,000 point game, which means that you're playing with 2,000 points because you're a good, normal, honest person, Crimson Paw. You're a nice person. You brought 2,000 points to a 2,000 point game because you were a good War Dolly player. But then a Slanesh jerk summons an extra 1,500 and they're playing you with 3,500 points. That's why depravity points are bad. Anyway, so a lot of the time, there's a lot of problems that people have with depravity points with how much stuff can summon. The only way to stop it is to kill all of your opponent's heroes because they need the heroes to summon. So Crimson Paw, the answer to your question is that depravity points are emotionally scarring. And at some point they will scar you unless you play Slanesh, in which case they will scar all of your friends and family. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there about it. Oh, sorry, Dad Hammer commenting that you can't run and shoot anymore with the snowball from Thundertusk Beast Riders because it's a shooting attack, which is cool. I'm glad they FAQ'd that. Cool Bunny saying that everything I just said is true, which you know is true because you play Slanesh, you big jerk, and so that you should join them. So Crimson Paw, you play Death, so will you also be able to summon with depravity points? No, but you will have a cool summoning mechanic where you have a lot of abilities to return models to units, and then a lot of your units when they're completely destroyed. So let's say you've got a unit of 20 skeletons. Once they're completely destroyed, you can spend a command point to bring that whole unit back from the dead for free. So basically every army's summoning is different. Slanesh have depravity points that they get for doing wounds. Tzeentch have summoning points that they get for casting spells. Yours are basically like mostly returning models and returning whole units. People used to rage a lot about that because it's honestly pretty hard sometimes. If you've got Nagash at the back, real tough to kill, and he just keeps basically growing stuff like they're daisies and you can't bring him down. But no, you have summoning and it's still pretty fucked. Like, to be fair, the only reason the community decided that like death summoning was okay is because Slanesh's summoning and Flesh Eater Court summoning was so fucking stupid. But yeah, anyway, that's a little rant, just a little sidetrack. Look, LOV is pointing out that yes, maybe there were some playtesting issues. Yeah, and not all summoning is created equally. To be honest, the most equal summoning is Seraphon, which is why I love to see a Seraphon player do well, and which is why I'm really excited about this. Because the big thing with Seraphon is all of their summoning, you have to make a sacrifice to summon. You have to not cast spells to get summoning points, which is really goddamn awesome. Dr. Vulcan. Oh, thanks for the bits, Dr. Vulcan. Just throwing some bits at me. Cheers. I'll finish that for that, and I'll pour myself another one. Oh, that triple went down too quick. Your biggest problem is that Slanesh models should represent excess in many forms, rather than just a whole lot of half-naked girl demons. Yeah, I definitely agree there. I think that's fair. The summoning might also be making you bitter. Yeah, there. I'm glad you enjoyed it, but yeah, I would agree as well. I think for me, like, what I really wish they'd released, and I know that we kind of associate like obesity with Nurgle, but I really wish there'd just been a couple of like, you know, like Greasiest Goldtooth to me is the ultimate Slanesh character. Now, for those who don't remember what that model looked like, it was the world's fattest ogre, like just wearing pants and a crown with a big jeweled scepter and a gigantic hunk of fucking demigryph leg that he was eating in his other hand. He was too fat to walk. He had eaten so much he could no longer walk, and he was carried on a bed by a bunch of Noblars, And in front of them, Noblars threw golden coins, so even his servants never had to walk on the ground. That is the level of opulence that this big fat boy went to. I bought the model when it came back up, and he is the legit best example of Slaanesh anywhere in all of Warhammer fiction and stuff like that. You fuck off all your naked people, you fuck off all that. He's like, I'm gonna eat till I can't walk. Then when I'm not gonna walk, I don't want even the people carrying me to step on the ground. That's the level of excess that I live at. That's good. Just having a quick, just missed a little bit in the chat there. Lugnuts wants Bone Splitters summoning. You don't really need that. Bone Splitters have like 500 shots with bows every turn. Mr. Mephisto saying Nagash is plenty balanced. It costs a resource. That's fair. And you can counter it, which I think is okay. The hard thing is when people were summoning back 40 warriors just so easily. But yeah, some guy like the Gold Goblin from Diablo 3, totally. Skinky Boy Dreamer. Oh god, I read that very, very poorly. I definitely missed the D there. Well, then I thought it said Skinky Boy Reamer, but it's Skinky Boy Dreamer, and I'm very sorry, but I just could not. Bill Robertson saying Grecius was cool as a concept, but the model in metal I despised. The model in resin, not fine cast, resin, because it was like when they redid it, they didn't do it. They did it in fine cast first and then just back in regular resin. It was real cool when it was in regular resin. Much easier to put together, no gaps. His rules weren't ever really that great, but he was all right. Dr. Vulcan, yeah, more bits because you agree that the model would be perfect Slaanesh. All right, Slaanesh players, fuck off your Keepers of Secrets, big fat ogres who refuse to walk on the ground and eat excessively. That's it. Also, he had a cool rule called Everybody Has Their Price, where he literally could buy your units into not doing shit, and it was fucking great. Anyway, so for Slaanesh, that's we got on a bit of a sidetrack there, but that's the dish that people have with depravity points. They're not super stoked about it. Oh, Bill Robertson, yours was metal, and you have my massive sympathies for that one. Pour one out for our boy who tried to build that. That was like trying to build the old metal Balrog. Anyone who ever tried to do that and get the two halves to line up, you have my sympathies. All right, round two. Just a little bit more Kraken. Kraken, please sponsor me. Or anyone who wants to sponsor me with alcohol, I will drink it. Oh God, that's the end of it too. It's the last of the Kraken. Oh God, it's gonna be a rough evening. Metal was the only way, opulence at its finest. Great. Davis Ford, subscriber to Twitch Prime. Welcome to the knee stabbing gang. Good to have you here. This show we probably don't talk about as much competitive stuff as the other one. Even nude soda. Yeah, no, not even it. We don't even have any nude soda, so I definitely won't be drinking that. To be completely honest with you, I probably shouldn't be. But yeah, so that I don't know where that sidetrack went. We've sidetracked so hard. I don't know how to get back onto where we are. And the only way I can think is to put up the second destruction list that I kind of... Oh, no, sorry, that's right. The other... I was talking about the other destruction list that we have coming with all the fucking Frost Sabers. And that's it. I can't believe I almost missed talking about this. He's bringing a mercenary company. He's bringing the Blackstone Battery, which is a cogsmith and 2 fucking cannons, 2 old Dwarden cannons. And it's only 380 points. And I'm kind of excited because we have 2 very different Beastclaw Raider armies coming. So in one respect, you have a Beastclaw Raider army that is just about sheer output and speed. Like, I feel like if you think you're being clever and like they've got 3 drops, so even if you outdrop them and give them the first turn, they probably shit mix you turn 1. And they're everywhere they go, they're smashing whatever they fucking look at. I really like it because it's the ultimate Bretonia ogre/orc list. Now, which is the list that we're looking at the screen. This other list, which is a couple of Stonehorns, 2 packs of Mournfang, a Thunder Tusk, and 10 Frost Sabers, allied in with 2 Dwarf Cannons and a Cogsmith. Now, those Dwarf Cannons get +1 to hit, I believe, from the Blackstone Battery rules. they're popping out 2 shots a turn, which means they're hitting on 3s, and for 1 command point, they're getting reroll 1s to hit. Or they're getting reroll 1s to hit per cannon. So 3s rerolling 1s, I believe they're 2s to wound, rend 2 damage, d6 each. Jesus fuck. They will mince whatever they look at. Now, I'm not sure what the bonus is that the engineer gives the cannon naturally. So let's have a cheeky little look-ski here, shall we? So if they've got their... You can reroll failed hit rolls if there's an engineer. So they have 3s with rerolls to hit. They're wounding on a... Which suddenly takes these cannons from not very good to kind of useful. 2 shots a turn. Wounding on 2s, rend 2 damage, d6. Far out. It's righteous. And the thing I like about this list, the difference, I guess, so the difference between the list that you can see on screen and the list we're talking about is the fact that the first list comes to you. This list can actually afford to kind of sit back a little bit and punish you for not coming to it, which, given that it doesn't have the same, like, just damage output hell for leather, it's kind of cool, which is wicked. LLV just asking if I just put syrup in my Kraken. That was, yeah, it's agave syrup because it's the closest I can make to an old-fashioned with spiced rum because it was impossible to get sugar cubes for some reason when I was buying them all. So yes, a little bit of agave syrup and then some Kensington bitters because I didn't have access to Angostura bitters, which was disappointing. But yeah, I dig it. I love that they're 2 very different lists that do 2 very different things. And they each punish their opponents in different ways. One of them punishes you by just coming next to you and giving you a bad touch, and the other one punishes you for not closing with it. And then when you close with it, you've closed with a bunch of fucking ogres. And also all of those 10 little saber cats, that's going to be great chaff. It's a great list. I dig it. I really like it. But now let's look at the other Grand Alliance destruction list. Now, some people may remember that quite some time ago, in fact, it was last year, the end of last year. So the Honest Wargamer, the website, which some of you may be aware of, it has a section where you can upload your lists. You can put in a lot of information about how it plays, what you run, how it works, just all the combos. So you can't, it's like sharing all of those resources and that information. There was one fantastic one. And the phrase holy bananas came to mind because it was all about the Magma Dragon and talking about, literally this guy just wrote a list about the Magma Dragon and then kept saying like, holy bananas, it's good. Holy bananas, specifically. And then did just a unit rundown just separately on it and said, this is just freaking amazing. It's great. And now I know the player who plays this list is going to know that we're going to be talking about it next. There's going to be no surprise. It's in the chat himself. It is Lugnuts, and we're talking about this spectacular piece of listage. Whoa, my God, I don't even know where to fucking start. So everyone, yeah, holy bananas, LLV, holy bananas indeed. So let's just start at the top. We'll start at the top. Nice, cheap little hero, Wergog Prophet. Just he's there, he's doing some stuff, having a bit of a dance, like bellowing tyrant, useful, I guess, gonna help out a little bit. Ignax the scales to keep it alive. Battle line, just 3 units of 10 Oryx, not Iron Jaws, not Bone Splitters, just the cheap, shitty 1 wound cousins. Okay, fair, good. 3 fucking Magma Dragons, 540 points a pop each. So 1,620 points, like what, 2/3 of the army? No, 3/4. So more than 3/4 of this army is Magma Dragons. Now, that's just ridiculous. Anyone who has ever fucking taken on a Magma Dragon as well, so first of all, it's a big fucking hunk of resin model. They're actually pretty sexy from Forge World. Lugnuts, are yours all 3 Forge World or are they conversions? That'd be cool to know. Holy bananas indeed. Bill Robertson swiping left for this list super hard or right, whichever one's the good one, I'm assuming. You want to swipe the one that dates it because you want to date this list. You probably get a burning sensation from it, but that's all right. the Retsev saying that what you like the most is that the Prophet has Ignax's scales, which is kind of fluffy because he's got scales and they're from the realm of fire. Like, yeah, it's great. So basically, it's insane. What a fuck! They're all Forge World. They're all the Forge World heroes. Okay, Cool Bunny. Cool Bunny wants to know what the Magma Dragon does, and let me just, you know how we were talking about how Gotrek is like 520 points and he's worth it because of X, Y, and Z. Let me take you for a trip down the Magma Dragon. I've only played one Magma Dragon once, and it was only one of them, and it fucked up twice its points in my army because I didn't appreciate how fucking terrifying they are. Now, the thing about this list, and I'm sure Lugnuts, given the way that you often enter the chat and hold yourself in the chat and generally do war dollies, I think it's fair to say that you are not a subtle creature. And that's fine, that's great. We don't have to be subtle creatures. You're a creature of unrelenting and unexpected violence. And what the Magma Dragon does is exactly that. Nothing subtle, zero subtlety in this list. Because what the Magma Dragon does is fuck you up hard. So it's 20 wounds. 20 wounds, which I know, Cool Bunny, right now you're just going like, depravity points. But they're going to be hard depravity points to get. Because 20 wounds with a 4-up save, but then it also has this fucking, does it still have a DPR? Maybe it doesn't. No, it doesn't have a DPR anymore. It used to have a damage prevention thing as well, but it doesn't. So, okay, you can get him. So it's a 4-up save. Every time you do a wound or a mortal wound in combat with it, on a 4-up, you cop a mortal wound back, but on a 6, you cop D3 mortal wounds back. So that's 20 potential wounds back or more. And when it shoots, right? So there's the thing. It shoots from 18 inches away. 18-inch shot. Pretty decent, right? You don't actually use the attack sequence. You just roll a dice, and on a 2-up, the unit it's shooting at cops D6 mortal wounds. But if it has 10 or more models, it cops 2d6 mortal wounds. So, like a unit that's sitting there with like a fucking like 10 wounds, and you're like, oh, these are my 10 Stormcast. You're like, on a 2-up, I do 2d6 mortal wounds to it. Averaging 7, which is pretty fucking savage. But then when you got multiples of it, but you would take all of that away, and then just go like pure combat, right? So it's movement 16, and it's got fly, because of course it has fucking fly. It zips across the board. It like baseline tough attack is 3s and 2s, starts at Rend 3 and gets slightly worse damage D6. And then it's got 8 attacks at 4s and 3s, Rend 1, damage 2. Now, by itself, you can kind of isolate it and shut it down. The thing that's shit is when you have 3 of them, they can work in like tandem so that you can't actually isolate any of them. It's just 3 fucking hate trains running at you. Now, the one thing I will say is this list lacks bodies, but it's not going to struggle to take your bodies off the board, which is where you kind of find yourself in a tough place. He's basically teaching them how to be bone splitters. Okay, fair, good. Holy bananas. These models are fucked. And like, it's not hard to get a unit of more than 10. This is the anathema to death, I would say. Because you see all these armies, the death armies with large units and things like that. This will just absolutely fucking rinse them. And even like Flesh Eater Courts. Like, yes, a Flesh Eater Courts player might come in and absolutely tear apart one of these. But they're going to trade their big death machine for the dragon. And you've got 3 dragons. They've usually only got 1 to 2 big flappy Royal Terrorgeists. So all you got to do is trade 1. And it's all painted. Good stuff. But yeah, ridiculous list. 3 Magma Dragons. Holy bananas. You physically could not fit another one. Double 2 dealer. Hi, is this Alcoholics Anonymous? No, it's not, because we're not anonymous. And we're not alcoholics here. What are we, everyone? We're drunks, because drunks don't have to go to the meetings. But yes, for those who are coming to Attack X, this army is just a thing of pure ridiculousness. And for that, we have to talk about it. For that, we have to discuss it. Mr. Mephisto is not an alcoholic. You're a fucking professional, and I love that. Before we move on, we'll have a chat about a couple of other lists as well. Let's just quickly... I'll throw it out. I'll throw it out to you, to the chat. Do we quickly want to have a flick through a couple of the battle plans that are coming up at Attack X and have a quick chat about maybe the things to think about in those battle plans, or just a couple of like little top tips or things to keep in mind? Or do we all want to just be super secrety and not actually say it? Bill Robertson, this tournament is at Kamloops, just wonderfully named places. Vanilla Sass, yes, we just hold your horses on that one. We might end up having a chat about that in a second. It's in Canada, but let's just super quickly, let's have a quick little chat about a couple of the missions, because I always kind of like to talk about it, only because I think the thing to remember is that while we talk about the damage and the sheer violence in a lot of these lists, it's actually the tech work on the table that gets the win. And as Cool Bunny pointed out, she got a badass list, and then usually it comes down to user error. So let's try to take user error out of this and make it so that Slanesh wins another fucking tournament. So game one's going to be shifting objectives. Now, for those who aren't aware, shifting objectives is now long board edge with a 12-inch deployment zone, 3 objectives in the center of each quarter of the board, and every turn one of those objectives is the primary. You roll a d3, and basically the primary is worth 3 victory points, the other 2 are worth 1. Let's give them love to the other factions also. Yes, let's give love to the other factions and stop shitting on Slanesh. Yeah, unlikely. I'm never going to forgive Slanesh or Flesh Eater Courts. Actually, it was awful. I found myself barracking for Flesh Eater Courts the other day. It was terrible. But shifting objectives, the one thing that you kind of need to play for, there's a small element of chance to it, because one of them being worth 3 is tough. But if you can hold 2 out of the 3 objectives, the odds say you win the game, right? The thing that some people forget is you only have to stop your opponent scoring a little bit to get ahead of them and then hold it down. Now, yes, a good roll, like luck, enters into it in a small way, but if you're all up on those objectives, your opponent isn't going to get anywhere near scoring. And the one key little bit of advice I'd say for this one is screen forward. So when we talk about screening forward and screening back, most of the time, personally, I think screening back is a better idea, where you pull the unit back to force your opponent to need longer charges, longer moves to get on the objective. Now, screening forward is good because you can use it to make a screen that your opponent charges and can't get onto the objective. The problem with that is that if your opponent hits you, kills the unit, and piles in around, they only need 1 model there at the end to control it, and you're basically shortening the distance they need to go. Faster armies, you can't really stop it. Different armies, it's going to be different. But I would say this one, screen forward. You want to stop your opponent from getting close to the objectives. If you can shut them down from scoring on an objective for a turn, you basically push them into a place where they have to be playing more aggressively against more objectives. And that's why I always say my advice on this one is control 2. Lock down 2 objectives and force your opponent to play aggressive. Now, let's say you get really unlucky and you roll like 3 in a row, the primary objective is always the other one, the one that your opponent's controlling. Then sure, you're in a bit of an unlucky spot, you're gonna have to play for him. But ultimately, you lock down 2, your opponent knows they have to come for you, and you can just set up your defensives and you can hold them out. So that shifting objectives for me is all about that. 3 objectives, take 2. Fuck off the 3rd, don't waste your energy, because you stretch your army too thin, your opponent can like focus theirs and pick off 1 objective, pick off the 2nd, and pick off the 3rd. If you're just kind of bunkered up around 2 of them, it's going to make it a lot harder. Slanesh shouldn't really struggle with that, because you can just keep fucking summoning stuff back into your little bunker castle and sending it out to try and fight your new one. So go for it, Slanesh. That was destruction. Let's do the chaos. Retsef wants to know the chaos lists. Nurgle and Zinch, and then keep shitting on it. Unfortunately, no Nurgle and Zinch coming, which is disappointing. Which is real sad to see, because I'm actually, for a long time, I didn't really love Zinch. Nurgle was okay. It was just a bit of a negative game experience. But Zinch definitely, I've got a real soft spot for him. But unfortunately, none coming. So that's shifting objectives. Again, go for 2. Go for 2. Don't get greedy. Go for 2. Or if you're playing me, don't go for any of them. Just back the fuck right off. Submit. piss off. The Dispossessed have got the day anyway, and you don't really need to think about it because, like, let's be honest, Dispossessed deserve the win. Let's just give it to Dispossessed. All right, so let's have a look at some more lists, shall we? Because and again, we'll talk about. I'll show a couple of lists, and then we're going to talk about a couple of others. All right, and now right off the back of this previous one that we were just looking at, for those who missed it. So 3 Magma Dragons, holy bananas, fucking 1,620 points of dragon. We go from that to Alex's list. Now this is a list that has only been mooted. It was a concept. It was a concept list. 5 fucking behemoths. Magma Droths were the biggest joke for a very long time in Fire Slayer circles. But he's taken 5 of them. He's done taken 5 Magma Droths. 5 big fucking dragon salamander puppies. And now these things, yes, they dish out a ton of depravity points, but they also bleed on you, which kills you. And the really, really cool thing about this list is it's Lofnir, which are like the dragon riding ones. It's minimum battle line. It's a couple of other little bits and pieces, but largely the entire thing is based around 5 fucking Magma Droths. Now, Lugnuts, you have the better animals. Now, no offense meant, Alex, Vanilla Sass, I know you're in the chat, no offense meant, but Magma Droths are the better animal. So the question will be quantity versus quality. And I really hope that this list comes up against the Magma Dragon list turn 1, because that is the game that I want to see. I want to see 5 Droths smash into 5 Magma Dragons, and then just absolute fucking carnage from that point out. So Cool Bunny, what do Magma Droths do? They're kind of like a baby Magma Dragon. They've got a little fire breath attack. It's pretty good. It's not as powerful as the one is that for Magma Dragons rather. They're a bit choppy in combat. When you hurt them, they bleed on you. They're like baby Magma Dragons in that respect. But the thing that they do have over Magma Dragons, I'm sorry to say this, Lugnuts, is they have heroes on the top. Now, not all of them are combat. Some of them give buffs. Some of them are shootier. Some of them take out monsters. Some of them buff other units. But arguably, having abilities makes them a little tougher. They can also take mount traits and general traits and artifacts, which gives them a little edge. However, I would love to see this army go off against the Magma Dragons. Probably game 1 in shifting objectives, so they can just run forward and smash into each other like some gigantic charge of the behemoths. Now, the other thing that I think is really cool about this list is that even though it's got minimum battle line in the form of the 3 Hearthguard Berserker units, Volkite Berserker units, they're 3 units of a 4/5/4 save with 2 wounds apiece. So that's 60 wounds sitting on objectives, which is a lot harder to shift. The only thing that I think that is the danger with a list like this is if you come up against a monster hunting army, you're in a bit of trouble. It's probably not going to be a bad one because, let's be honest, there aren't any Bone Splitters coming. I would think this army would have a very bad day against like Bone Splitters with like a Teeth Ruck or an Arrow Ruck or something, a Cunning Ruck or something like that. But I think it's going to be okay. The Bucket Ninja, this list is fire. And like we could almost sing like, this list is on fire. But we won't because better people have sung that. But yeah, Magma Droths, they're kind of like the standard cav for Fire Slayers. I dig them. It's such a cool fucking list. Lugnuts was going to bring a Cunning Ruck, but your friend said no, you picked a better one. But LLV pointing out very poignantly, and I'm sure Vanilla Sass in the chat is aware, this is a wet dream for Slaanesh. Again, Slaanesh players are just looking at it like a cat. At some point, I feel like Slaanesh players watching this stream are going to be overloaded like a cat on Catnip. They're just like, so many depravity points. I don't have enough models to summon. At least Khorne can use their Blood Tithe points for other things, whereas all they have is summoning. Vanilla Sass saying, you actually played against Slaanesh with this list, and he got 152 depravity points. Well, yes, and everything is okay, But yeah, I really dig it. I actually think this is the list out of all of the order lists that I'm looking at going like, it's fucking savage, it's all right. The one thing that might be interesting is there's a couple of Stormcast lists, one of which at least is quite shooting heavy. I think this list might struggle against a list like that because it could potentially pick out some of the key pieces before they have a chance to kind of close home and bash in. But ultimately, it's really, really cool. I like seeing that endless, the not endless spell, the endless prayer in there as well, because a runic firewall just to block either like movement or whatnot, shut down movement around objectives. It's really, really cool. Dig it, love it, and I hope that we can get like maybe after the tournament, Vanilla Sass, if you're happy to reveal some of its secrets, putting up an army thing on the Honest Wargamer, because it'd be really, really cool to see. Cool Bunny, very disappointed that that Nemesis hasn't built you more Keepers of Secrets, so you can't summon more. My heart bleeds for you. Like, this is just so much, so many tears that I don't have to give you because they've already been cried, but that's okay. And then the other order list that I want to super quickly have a little look at. This list, I read it, and in hindsight, I picked a lot of these lists that I wanted to talk about in a bit of a vacuum. This list, I looked at it, and I was like, holy shit, I want so bad to see it play. Like, I don't know what I want to watch it play, but it's remarkable, it's beautiful, it's kind of in the vein of the Bragoth Beasthammer, and you know exactly what I mean in just a second. We're looking right here at this absolutely ridiculous list. So Lord Celestin on Stardrake. So the biggest, I think arguably the biggest model in Age of Sigmar, and a really cool one as well. No, nothing there. Staunch Defender on it, which is, it's so 2017 to have a Staunch Defender on a Stardrake, but whatever. Lord Celestin on a Stardrake with Staunch Defender and the Shard Fist Pelt, which I don't know what it does. Chat, get on it. I've got my my Malign Sorcery here though, so I can have a look if we need to check it out. Lord Arcanum on a Griff Charger with Azurite Halo just for keeping shit alive. Windrunner to make it a little bit swifter. 3 like minimum cheapest battle line that Stormcast Eternals can take. 3x5 Liberators. And then 2 units of 4 Desolators, which is super cool. Vanilla Sass is saying that the Shard Fist Pelt reflects saves on a 6-up, which then comboed with their like other reflective thing from their shield is even better. But yeah, so Eric's list is super fucking cool. I love it. It's because it's more Bretonia than even the previous Bretonia list, because it's just one big fucking thing and then 8 like mini dragon mounts, and then just a handful of like plebs running along behind it being like, let me help, no, let me help. So yeah, it's exciting, it's fun. I actually think this list is going to take a number of people by surprise. The one thing it's going to struggle with is potentially objective play, because it's got the beat stick to push you off the objectives, but it doesn't really have the models then to hold them. So I think it's going to be rocking a shock and awe style of things, of hitting you so hard that you don't have a chance to kind of recoup and get back onto objectives after they leave. Stardrakes are fucking insane. They're awesome. They're great. Especially on, say, the double turn, like just doing a handful of mortal wounds to heroes and picking them off. So yeah, I think that a lot of those 5 wound heroes, they're going to just nix them out, and then they'll just go on in and cause havoc. But again, LOV pointing out, that's just more depravity. Nothing in this list has 1 wound. The minimum depravity you get is actually from those units of Liberators, where you're getting 5 a unit. Like, it's just, yeah, it's crazy how much is doing it. But Eric's list is fucking awesome. I think Eric maybe had the chance to run Slanesh and chose instead to run this list, which I think is really cool, because he went from like suckling at the teat of depravity to being the cow for the depravity to be suckled from, and I think that's really lovely. That's special. It's a very universal discovery to come to. Apparently Vanilla Sass and Eric have played a game, and they've just the shitload of massive cavalry. So yeah, LLV is just, yep, Attack X is the most depraved event that has ever been seen. And that is a very fair statement. Now, just to flick across a couple of the other order lists that I didn't get time to pull into a thing, but I really did want to look at and want to have a little cheeky chat about. There's a couple of cool Seraphon lists. which we will, let me just grab that one right there. So there's a couple of cool Seraphon lists. We've kind of got the two, often people argue in Seraphon, there's two formations that are particularly strong that you see a lot of. They are the Shadow Strike Star Host and the Thunderquake Star Host. We've got two opposed armies, one running each. And there's a part of me that even though they both play Seraphon, so it'd suck for them to play each other, I would love for the Thunderquake to have to play the Shadow Strike so we could find out once and for all which one is the superior battalion. Now, the one that's rocking the Shadow Strike Star Host, and this I find really interesting, so go with me. Anyone who's ever played Seraphon and played against Seraphon, the Shadow Strike Star Host basically lets you put a unit of Ripidactyl Riders or Pterodons in the sky. They drop down close to your opponent. They can then move and then charge. So they always have a 3-inch charge. So 9 times out of 10, what you see is like 9 Ripidactyls in that formation that drop down and charge and fuck something up because they just get, like 9 Ripidactyls generate hundreds of hits on the turn they drop down. It is insane. Check their rules, read about the Bloat Toad, all hail the Bloat Toad. But this list doesn't. This list only has 3 Ripidactyl Riders in that Shadow Strike Star Host. So it's not relying on that hit. What it is relying on, though, is a Lord Croak and a Balewind Vortex. Does anyone in the chat remember what that was called? Because it has a very specific name. When you've got Croak and a Balewind Vortex, it can only mean one thing. And that basically means that Croak is going to chill in the middle of his fucking army and just be a Croaknado, the Sharknado of Doom, where all he does is just spam mortal wounds on everything. And Croak's notoriously hard to kill unless you can fuck him up. Now, the Balewind Vortex has had a bit of a nerf, which is great. It means it's not as scary anymore. You can actually hit him in combat, which a lot of armies couldn't. But it's real cool to see. I'm really excited to see that there's a Croaknado coming, because I don't think I've seen a Croaknado in so fucking long. Exactly LOV. We're going all the way back to 2017. We've got Staunch Defender. We've got a Croaknado. The other cool thing about this list is that it's Croak's Angry Boys, which I love the phrase of anyone who's seen Angry Boys, the Chris Lilly TV series. There's also an Eternal Star Host in there, which I'm not as familiar with, but I believe their whole shtick is based around the Eternity Warden and 3 units of Saurus Guard, and it makes them super fucking durable. They're like 2-ups re-rolling their armor saves or something, or 3-ups re-rolling their armor saves. And if they don't move, I believe they do D3 damage in combat, which means that I believe they're going to lock shields around Croak while he just stands there and is like, and fucks up everybody with it. Finally, there's no, this list is probably not the points left over, so there's no Engine of the Gods, so there's no janky summoning or stuff like that. But yeah, the one thing that it suffers at is mortal wounds, which Dr. Vulcan has pointed there. Mortal wounds get through Seraphon like a hot knife through butter. LLV is saying I fucked up the timeline. I fucked up the timeline. I'm so sorry, everybody. The timeline was good. I traveled a little bit too much. I fucked it up, and now this is where we live. Now, the other Seraphon list, just super quickly, just to touch on what it's fashioned into it as well. Where did you go? I had you here. Yes. So this one is a bit more standard. Well, standard in that we've seen it a little bit more before. So there's a Slan Starmaster, and he's pretty durable. Wander Restoration, obviously helping keep him alive, restoring wounds. There's an Engine of the Gods as well, and a Saurus Astrolith Bearer and a Skink Star Priest. So a lot of points there being put obviously into the Engine of the Gods to just absolutely maximize what it can do. There's 15 Saurus Guard in a unit, which you very rarely fucking see. Usually you don't see Saurus Guard getting run, so I love seeing him here. 2 units of Skinks, awesome. Skinks, even with a 10-point hike, are awesome. 3 Croxagore. Yes! Well, when was the last time you saw Croxagore do anything? They've got such cool models. They're big beat stick skinks. They're not actually Saurus. They're big beat stick skinks, and they're wicked. And then 2 Laser Bastillodons in a Thunderquake Star Host. Now, Thunderquake Star Host can either make you more durable or more smashy in combat, which is great. I just think it's wicked. I really dig it. I think that it's kind of cool seeing that you've got Thunderquake and Shadow Strike diametrically opposed. It'd be so cool. But yeah, and they're not memories anymore. They are now real things. They don't burst into little motes of light on those big ships that they float around. They actually spawn them in these massive spawning chambers. Well, it's almost like they're Tyranids. Anyway, and they send them down where we can cook them. So yeah, lug nuts, you can actually taste them. You don't need to worry about it. You can get some sweet, sweet Seraphon flavors into your gullet, and it'll be delicious. Now, to be honest, in the Thunderquake Starhost, I'd almost like to see the snake basties as opposed to the solar basties, but they fuck up demons like nobody's business. And given how much Slanesh there is, this list will fuck Slanesh so hard it won't be funny. Peter's running this list. It's called Dead Star, which I dig. It's groovy. The only thing is that in my version of the list, it says that both the Engine of the Gods and the Slan Starmaster have the Wand of Restoration. So I'm guessing that one of those is the Wand of Restoration and the other one is supposed to have maybe something else rather than the duplicate thing. But largely, it's a wicked list. I think it's really cool, and I really hope a Slanesh army has to go up against this, where they're just basically sitting at the back being like, the cosmos of lasers is here to destroy you. And then they just fuck you up with lasers. Skinky Boy Dream is saying, you did 30 wounds with 2 Bastiladons to a Vermin Lord. Sweet Jesus. You didn't give him a 10. You basically turned him into a rotisserie chicken rat. I just wonder, can a Slan remember another Slan? And if so, could we see Croak back to full Insane Frog of Doom? I wonder if that's like a social faux pas though. It's like if you remember something else, it's like, no, dude, you don't remember them. Like that's kind of rude. You let them go, but we remember each other. I also feel like surely these frogs are ancient. How many are there? Because I've killed a ton. I've killed a ton of them. And there can't be that many because they're supposed to take forever. But yeah, I dig it. I like them. So that's really, really cool. There's a Daughters of Cain coming. It's just the same kind of terrifying Daughters of Cain list that we've seen. The major difference is it's Strashy Ganeth as opposed to, what's the basic bitch one? Cool Bunny, I know you're in the chat. What's the temple that everybody takes in Daughters of Cain? Hagnar. That's the one I'm looking for. So it's, to be honest, the list itself is quite similar to what has come before. The major thing that I think is really interesting here is that this list has, so it's Marathi, Slaughter Queen and Cauldron and Blood, a couple of Hag Queens, 2 Tens of Sisters of Slaughter, 30 Witch Elves, 10 Witch Elves, and 2 units of Heartrenders with the Slaughter Troop. It usually seems to come down to Cauldron Guard or Slaughter Troop in most Daughters of Cain armies. But this one includes a Beowulf Vortex, which I think is really cool, because it means for me, if I'm playing against this list, I'm trying to figure out whether my opponent is putting Marathi up on a Vortex to be an absolute magic beast, or whether my opponent is using that to kind of like bait me out before turning her into a gigantic death snake lady, which I think is actually super cool. So yeah, I like it. They basically have like a really cool, and also I have no idea what Drachi Ganeth do, because I've never played against them. I've always played against Hagnar or the Calebron that everyone seems to run. So yeah, I dig it. I think it's interesting. It's a bit different, which is, it like that little bit of difference sometimes makes a lot of fun. I wonder if the player also needed a little bit of a change up. And yeah, it's cool. But it is just really quite the same list. Though then again, when that's such a good list, why would you mess with it? And just touching on two other lists, there's a couple of Sylvaneth lists. Now, the reason I'm not going to talk about them is I don't understand them. I don't know the trees well. I haven't had a chance to read their books, so I don't really want to dip a toe into there without knowing what I'm talking about. But 2 quick ones is that Natasha Thomas is bringing Deepkin, and not to go too deep dive into it, but both the Eidolons, so an aspect of the sea and an aspect of the storm, fucking awesome. 820 points spent on 2 big ass water cloak fish boys. And then, this is the other cool thing, a Black Ark Fleetmaster and 40 Black Ark Corsairs. Dadhammer, I know you'll be stoked about that. So it's kind of cool because that's usually the one thing that you find Deepkin armies struggle with, is the bodies, because they might use like thralls or whatnot, but at the end of the day, they just don't have the bodies to do it. So a unit of 40 with a Black Ark Fleet Master just to back them up. And the name of the army, which I also get a good tickle at, is the Double Wave Capes of Doom, which reminds me of that old failed series, The Cape. And I hope that that's all those Eidolons are trying to do, is like flick capes around. And for what it's worth, I have played against, there's a Stormcast list coming, played by the very wonderful and very talented Darren. It's a variation on a theme. It's like Mozart, but played by someone else, with long strike raptors and evocators. But it's a dancey list. It's a list that doesn't mind deploying on the table and dancing around you. And I hate dancing because I have no rhythm and I've got 2 left feet, so I don't like it. Also, my dispossessed are slow, and I hate things that dance around me and then shoot me. That's what I like to do, not what I like to have happen to me. But yeah, all right, well, Dr. Vulcan, sorry, just super quickly, what days do you stream? Keep missing them. So Monday evenings, so like right now, and then we're looking potentially, not going to say anything just yet, but looking at there being a couple of other, at least another stream coming up soon, if I can get the tech working, but that's a bit hush-hush, that's a secret. So yeah, it's kind of cool. All right, so you want to hear about the Sylvaneth Gun Mage? Let's look at the Sylvaneth then. We'll quick do it. So the 2 Sylvaneths. So the first one, I actually am kind of a little worried about it, because for me it has, so it's packing Alariel first of all, like tough, Spirited Derthu, and a pair of Branch Wraiths, which is, it's just a strong casting body. Then it obviously means there's not a crazy amount of points left over, but there's a Tree Lord, an Emerald Life Swarm for more healing. Like, this is such a healing army between Alariel. The Spirited Derthu has the Dawn Flask, the Branch Wraith knows Regrowth, the Branch Witch knows Verdurous Harmony, and then you've got the Life Swarm, and basically you've got 3 large durable units that are going to be healing the shit out of themselves, 2 units of 5 Tree Revs and 2 units of 20 Dryads, which means Alariel can summon whatever the fuck she wants with her little free summoning thing, because there's a lot, this army just, I feel it plays in a lot of different games very well. It's Oakenbrow, and which I don't know what that does, and so basically I dig that this list is really versatile. It heals, it holds, it's got bodies, it's got summoning, and yeah, to be honest, coming up against it, until Alariel pulls the trigger and does her summoning, I'd be worried about committing anywhere, and I kind of like it for that reason. But yes, so much to burn, so much to set on fire, and yeah, I think that's rad. But Double Dealer wants to hear about Trogs. Unfortunately, no Trogs coming, which is disappointing. No Trog armies. But yeah, it's an interesting list, and I really, really dig it. I like the way that it kind of comes together, and I love the flexibility of it as well. My one thing for Sylvaneth that I'm interested in is they used to make their game by covering the board in like 3-tile woods everywhere. Now that they can only put down 1 at a time, I'm interested to see how that plays. And I know I've played games against a couple of Sylvaneth players who still thought that they could put down all their fucking woods the way they used to, but it has changed a little bit. Now the other Sylvaneth list that I think is like kind of looking at it and I'm like, oh yeah, we're going the other way. So it's Dreadwood. It's an Arch Revenant who is a pain in the ass, an absolute fucking pain in the ass. Like, oh, I can just ignore a wound and lose fly? Fuck you, you stupid beetle wing bastard. Not about it, don't like it. Drycha, a Spirited Derthu, and a Branch Wraith. And then the battle line is kind of minimum. 3 units of Spite Revs, 2 5s and 1 10. And then Kurnoth Hunters, who I really haven't seen in Sylvaneth lists prior to their new book. And all the different flavors. All the flavors of the Kurnoth Hunter rainbow. There's a unit of Great Bows, a unit of Swords, and then 6 with Scythes, which I think is kind of cool because they really haven't had their day in quite some time. And there's the battalion is the Outcasts in there too. The other thing that's kind of nice about this list is looking at it, it comes to 1980 points, and I think that means that they're going to get a triumph in a lot of them. Now, they get rerolls to hit, suddenly they're going to be real terrifying. And that's, look, there's definitely ones that I've missed because I'm trying to flick through and we're trying to get through a lot of them. But yeah, I think it's kind of cool. A dozen Kurnoth Hunters. which is kind of great. Mr. Mephisto not liking the way my eyes light up when I talk about setting things on fire. Well, that's all right. I'm a dispossessed player, and I take Iron Drakes. They like to, and their rule is literally blaze away. So they sit in a really lovely place of burning things, and trees are wood, and wood burns good. Oh, there we go. I'm a poet, and I didn't even think I was. Gunmage saying that's quite close to what you run, which is, it's kind of cool. The other thing with a dozen Kurnoths, with their ability to thicket, to reroll saves and stuff, they're fucking durable. They're going to be hard to push off, and they're going to be a real pain in the ass for people to shift. Now, all right, let's quickly jump on to death. Super quick. Surprisingly, like I mentioned, there's a number of Nighthaunt armies, which I'm kind of surprised to see, because the Nighthaunt tended not to be the one that people went for. Like, they've got that really cool, they've got a couple of decent spells, they've got that cool ability where if they roll a high charge, they get to pile in and attack immediately. But 3 of the death armies that are coming are Nighthaunt. And usually, LLV, I know you're in the chat, usually the majority comes from the Legions of Nagash book, not Nighthaunt. Legion of Grief's done well recently, but yeah. Dr. Vulcan, take it easy. Have a good one. Thanks for the bits as well. I'll put them straight. Actually, I need to buy more alcohol for next stream, so it's probably going to be alcohol bits. Yay, alcohol bits. But yeah, so just of the Nighthaunt lists, there's a couple of them that I think are quite similar to what we've seen before, and not in exactly the same way that they all have been, but like, you know, there's a couple that seem to be sitting heavily on the multiple, and actually in a lot of the death as well, like 30 strong units of Grimghast Reapers, which can just fuck right off, because that's no fun for anyone except for the person playing them. For the person playing them, they are great fun. And I take nothing away from you. Like 30 Grimghast Reapers is going to be just a real happy place to be. But yeah, like, so one of them, looking at it, Lady Oleander features quite heavily, which you can't understand why she wouldn't, because she is fucking awesome. The thing that I like though, one of the armies, now whose list is this? Mick. Mick's running a Mongol. We haven't seen Mongols in ages, so I'm super keen to see that. I dig Mongols. I think they're a great model. They used to be super fucked. Now their rules are actually quite balanced, and I think people overcorrected. Like, Mongols used to be just abhorrently good at healing, surviving damage. You could barely kill them. They'd fuck you up and heal themselves. They were way too cheap. Now they're quite worth their points, but people just stopped taking them because they were like, oh, well, I need to find the next broken thing. It also has a good chunk of spirit hosts, a bit of hex wraiths, and yeah, and I like it for that reason. I like seeing a Mongol in there. The other one though, the one that really tickles me is it's Archie's list. Now Archie's rocking a couple of Guardians of Souls with Nightmare Lanterns, because why wouldn't you? They're fucking great. Lady Oleander, of course, Spirit Torment, real good. But then also the Craven King. So I dig that we've got Oleander and the King, same list. Ooh, baby. Because they're super cool models. They've got a whole lot of like story together. And I like that they both do different things very well. And so it's kind of great. It's basically like husband and wife going out there to fuck you out. So yeah, Rocco, your boy, what was the Evocator Stormcast list? Oh yeah, sorry. So just super quickly to touch on the Evocator Stormcast list. It's popping, so it's different. It's a variation on a theme, is the way I describe it. Anvils of Heldenhammer, so they're probably coming at you in the hero phase. Lord Aquila, Knight of Zeros, Knight Relictor, Knight Incantor, and a Spellweaver allied in for that auto dispel, I have no doubt. Minimum battle line in that it's 2 units of 5 Liberators and a unit of Vanguard Hunters. 9 Raptors with Long Strikes, 3 Ether Wings, because of course you're not going to take Long Strike Raptors without Ether Wings. 10 Evocators, and then the Geminids. So I kind of like the Lord Relictor has translocation, so this list, it's quite the Stormcast list. It's not the same list that we've seen a lot, where it's about deploying in the sky with long strikes and ballistas, and it's all about shooting you off the board. I really dig that it's kind of well balanced and it does a whole lot of different stuff. So that's kind of wicked. LLV asking what I'm playing at Attack X. Of course I'm playing Dispossessed. I ain't going to play nothing else at the moment until maybe Cities of Sigmar comes out. I'm going a bad army, Lugnuts to mad. You just wait until I set your fucking dragons on fire. Redsef saying that I've been chatting about a gorgeous skilled Dispossessed player being at Attack X, so I must be playing something else. And Nemesis actually in the chat, the player of that Stormcast Longstrike list in the chat, saying that the last game you played, you failed the prayer the entire game, which is the danger in the list. There's a lot more versatility in the list, but there is a lot more chance that it can go wrong. Whereas if you just put 9 long strikes and 3 ballistas in the sky, you pretty much guarantee you fuck up your opponent's day. Oh. So yeah, it's cool. Just touching back on the death lists as well. The other thing that's kind of cool is there's a lot of different stuff. So we have a Legion of Sacrament list that's rocking Prince Vordry, Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, Necromancer, Vampire Lord, and then minimum Direwolves. Purple Sun, awesome. Chronomantic Cogs, obviously, to get him into combat. And then the unit of 30 Grimghast Reapers. Like, that's just not here or there. We don't need to talk about it. 30 Grimghast Reapers can go fuck themselves. But cool list, really interesting. We also have a Nagash list that almost always Nagash lists look quite similar. And to be fair, this one does. It's Nagash, a Necromancer, 40 Skeleton Warriors, and then 2 units of 60 zombies. So 120 zombies in this list. Fuck, when was the last time you saw zombies anywhere? I fucking love it. And an Umbral Spell Portal, obviously, so Nagash can get his little bad touch finger out there. But this is just wicked. I really like seeing that. I almost wish the skeletons were something else. I wish 280 points of skeletons was something else just so that it could be all zombies. But I like the idea of Nagash, the supreme ruler, instead of having like what he normally does, like his Skeleton Warriors and his Graveguard and Grimghast Reapers and whatever. It's Nagash leading the worst of his warriors. That, for me, just tickles me. It makes me happy. Colton, mate, I love your list. It's good fun, and it makes me happy in my special place. There's a couple of other Legion of Sacrament lists. There's a Legion of Sacrament list being played by Daryl that has 2 engines in it, I believe. 2 Mortis engines, which sometimes you see 1. So it's kind of cool to see 2. And I'd be interested to see how that list goes as well, because it's definitely going to have a different vibe to it compared to a lot of those Sacrament lists. And the last one, well, there's a Flesh Eater Courts list as well. Wyatt, mate, you're playing Flesh Eater Courts. You know what you've done. Like you know what you've done. Okay, you know what, chat? I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you that it's a feast day list. So it's a Flesh Eater Courts feast day list. Let's just crowdsource what we think is in this list, all right? So chat, let's have a go. Let's crowdsource what we think might be in this Flesh Eater Courts list. And Lugnut's pointing out that he's very new, but he's very nice. He's very new. He has no clue, so I have to be nice. And I, to be completely honest, he's very new. He could win the event with this list. So if you were to build a list, you'd probably put in an Abhorrent Archregent. You'd probably put in 2 Abhorrent Ghoul Kings on Terrorgeists. And then you'd probably have a Cryptghast Courtier, 3 units of ghouls to fill out a Ghoul Patrol. The thing I do dig is there's Purple Sun, Corpsemare Stampede, and the Chalice. Because the Corpsemare Stampede, if every time you cast it, you don't sing Mortal Wounds on Zombie Horses, yeah, that's the way it's gonna be, my opponent. Then you've missed an opportunity completely. But this is straight up and down a savage fucking Flesh Eater Courts list. So 2 Ghoul Kings on Terrorgeist, Abhorrent Archregent, Crypt Ghouls, and yeah, it's tough. It's nice to know. It's nice to know that he's a new player, but he's a new player that is going to fucking lift models left, right, and center from his opponent's armies. So yeah, it's savage. Rerolling Ones, good to see you, mate. You don't sing with an Australian accent. No, that's because I wasn't singing an Australian song. Obviously, it'd come in thick and fast if we were out in the bush and I was singing at some weird Australian bush karaoke. Yeah, it's a savage list. I think he might be a new player. I reckon he's going to do good. So Wyatt, mate, I'm going to put it out there. You might be playing your first few games of Age of Sigmar. You'll probably fuck me up. You'll probably fuck a lot of people up who you don't even need to know half your rules for them to just take models off, because Flesh Eater Courts are the savages that their backstory leads us to believe they are. Super quick, just on the other side of things, there is a really, really cool Trevor. I don't know if you're out there. I'm not going to try and pronounce your last name because I will get it wrong. A really cool Legion of Blood list that has a Vampire Lord on Dragon. Obviously, he's got the Ethereal Amulet, whatever. He's always going to have that. 2 Vampire Lords on Nightmares. 20 Blood Knights, so 2 units of 10 Blood Knights, another 5 Blood Knights, and then 3 5s of Direwolves. The question that I have is, are they legitimate Blood Knight models or are they converted Blood Knight models? Because those models are super expensive and I would love to know. You're busy to what? First you did Doug Stream. Doug Stream. Yes, Doug Stream. Who's Doug? Doug. I don't... Wait, Doug? I think I'm confused. I don't think I know a Doug. Douglas? Do I have a nickname for someone and I don't know their real name? Fuck, I'm terrible at that. But yeah, I dig the Legion of Blood. I think it's super cool. I love that this is a Legion of Blood list that leans heavy on the Legion of Blood. Like this is Blood Knights led by vampires on Nightmares. It's fucking awesome. And then obviously the boss on the dragon. I'd be happy to play against this list. I'd probably get smashed off the table, but I'd be happy to go up against it because it's not only a cool list, it's a tough list, and it sits in its theme nicely, which for me, it just tickles me in the right place, right? Like that's what you kind of want. And it's always nice to see that happen in an army that's maybe kind of playing a little funky in there. Was there one more? I think there was one more that I wanted to look at there as well. But I can't remember. It might not be. No, it wasn't that one. It was... Nope, that was it. That was the ones that we were looking at there. And last but not least, we come to Chaos. Right. Yeah, fair. Rerolling ones, yeah. Just you get around. You're like a wonderful venereal disease everywhere you go. Attack X is in Kamloops, which is a place I don't know where it is, but I will be there. I will be there, and it will be a very interesting way of getting there. But last but not least, let's talk Chaos. Now I know I let slip before that there's no Nurgle and there's no Tzeentch coming, which is super disappointing because while they were well hated for a while, they're actually quite cool to play against now that other armies have come out and they've found their balance in the meta. But what I want to ask the class is what, outside of Khorne and Slaanesh, what other Chaos factions you think are represented? Now, if you know the answer because you're playing and you've seen the lists, don't say jack. But if you think, just take a guess. Just take a guess, right? Let's see how we go. Because I can confirm that Slaanesh and Khorne are present, and they're present in quite impressive numbers. But then just see what else we think might be there. Because looking at it, it's going to be an interesting one. For at least for one particular style. So what are we saying? Skaven, of course, yeah, but Everchosen, Skaven, Slaves to Darkness. Oh, LLV thinking there'll be Slaves to Darkness. No, I wish there were. If there were Slaves to Darkness, I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't have buried the lead. I would have just been like, I'd have a little flag and I'd be like, Slaves to Darkness actually exist. It's unfortunately that's not the case. It's not the case. It's not Slaves to Darkness. It's not Tamrakans. I'm sorry, I built it up. It's just Skaven. It's literally just the Chaos is represented by the top 3 Chaos factions that we have in the meta at the moment. I believe there's 2 Slaanesh players. I think there's 4 Khorne players and 2 Skaven players. So it's to be completely frank, the Slaanesh armies they're a bit different. They both lean heavy on 2 Keepers of Secrets. Terrifyingly, Cool Bunny V's army is packing 2 Blade Bringers on Exalted Chariots, which for 220 points are they're terrifying to big units of single wound models. But they're not as bad as they used to be, but they're still terrifying. And there are a lot of depravity points, and the Contorted Epitome as well. And then the nice combination, 30 demonets for fucking stuff up, 10 demonets for blocking stuff up, and 5 Hell Riders for screaming out there in the Supreme Cyberites. Yeah, that's just straight up terror right there. Slaanesh obviously are terrifying for a very good reason, and if you haven't played against Slaanesh yet, I don't want to spoil the enjoyment of the first time you play it. The other one is also a Godseeker's host, 2 Keepers of Secrets, a Bladebringer on Exalted Chariot, and Enrapturous, 30 demonets, and 5 Seekers with the Epicurean Revelers as their formation, which I don't know what it does, because who fucking knows? It probably just summons more. So yeah, it's savage again, like just tough lists, and I really don't want to go up against either of them. Though I will say the one thing that my army does have going for them is that my army is a fucking nightmare for Slaanesh, because I generate, like, I think across my army I can generate like 12 depravity points off me. So all the depravity my opponent is getting is off themselves, usually. Which, to be fair, most Slaanesh players bank on anyway. They're like, throw 2 Keepers of Secrets forward. You kill one, and they're like, fuck yes! They killed one other hero. Now I get 2 Keepers of Secrets back. 2 Keepers of Secrets forward. And they basically, what happens is, you know when you see a toddler at a beach, and they're walking towards the water, and you're like, that kid's having a good time. And then they get hit by a wave, and they're just like, it doesn't take much, but it just knocks them on their ass. And like, what the fuck was that? That's what happens when you play against Slaanesh. But with Keepers of Secrets, usually. It's just like, Keeper of Secrets, couple of little heroes just to chain summon a Keeper of fucking Secrets. And don't lie, anyone in the chat who plays Slaanesh, straight up, you play it for Keepers of Secrets. Don't be like, oh no, occasionally I choose to summon some 30 demonets. Fuck off, you don't summon 30 demonets. If you can summon 30 demonets, you're summoning a Keeper of Secrets. But then the Khorne lists, there's actually a couple of different looking Khorne lists, which is cool. Of the Skaven, one of the Skaven is doing one thing and one thing alone, quite obviously. It's a Warp Seer, Master of Magic. Now there's also the Warp Lightning Vortex and Vermintide. So when you combine Master of Magic with the Gnawholes and then Warp Lightning Vortex, it's pretty obvious that they're going to try and put the Rat Trap out like turn 1, turn 2. Then there's 2 Plague Priests on Plague Furnaces, 2 Plague Priests, and 140 Plague Monks. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the strategy here is going to be trap you and then feed you Plague Monks and not actually beat your opponent, just drown them in dice. Just take all the dice on the table and drown your opponent to the point where they can't physically breathe because there's so many dice in their mouth that they choke. I think that's probably the move. Now, quite a different army from Grayson, who's also playing Scaventide. Unfortunately, the same kind of startup for the general. So Verminlord Warps here with Master of Magic. It's 300 points that gives you a pretty guaranteed caster. But only the Vermintide, not the Warp Lightning Vortex, which is interesting to see. Grayseer on Screaming Bell, fucking great. Grayseers are hilarious characters. Put them on a bell, you make them more hilarious. They're basically like the weird furry version of like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, just swinging around being like, Sanctuary. Clawlord, awesome. Clawlords are fun. Again, the thing about a lot of these Skaven models, they're just ridiculous. And there's a Warlock Engineer with a Vigor Dust Injector. Now, the only thing that's disappointing is it's not the Bombardier, because the fun thing about the Bombardier is he can kill himself in 2 different phases. And if you're playing Skaven and you don't kill yourself at least once per battle round, you're doing something wrong. 60 Clan Rats broken up into 2 units. 20 Storm Vermin, which is awesome. Storm Vermin are possibly the coolest models in all of the line. And then the Doom Wheel. The most mighty weapon in the Skaven arsenal, criminally underused, Hell Pit Abomination, wicked fucking model, and a Warp Lightning Cannon, because nothing messes your opponent up like teleporting a Warp Lightning Cannon and just 12 mortal wounding off something. And then also a Warp Fire Thrower, because fuck you, you got too close and we're setting you on fire. But yeah, it's quite rad. I dig it. It's an interesting list. Just having a quick little check there. What's the Skaven list? Skaven, Ever-Chosen Temple. Dan goes, yeah, sorry, I missed your chat. I was waxing lyrical about it for a little bit. As it keeps on summoning and summoning and summoning. Yeah. No Beasts of Chaos Bucket Ninja, which is disappointing because they actually, disappointingly, when we see Beasts of Chaos do well, 9 times out of 10, they're leaning heavy on Enlightened, which is a Zinch unit. So I kind of want to see that. Rerolling ones. Is Attack X sold out? I think it might be, but I mean, you potentially could still apply. So flick an email to Mr. Andy Selwood, who is the TO. I know that there were 2 very late additions to the roster, so potentially there might be more room. Mr. Mephisto thinks that 140 Plague Monks isn't enough, which is disappointing because I think that 40 Plague Monks is too many. The tournament organizers, Bucket Ninja. There's yeah, okay, cool. So people are throwing people out. They're great rerolling ones, mate. Might see you there then. That'd be fucking awesome. Just come along, hustle in. We'll have a little bit of fun. So those are the Skaven lists, and now Khorne. And I'll leave Khorne nice and last because it's the one that you know is going to be last is going to be... Actually, no, maybe it won't be because there's a bloke with a great name who is playing Khorne, and maybe that one can be last. Yeah, let's do this. So Mr. Matthias, because it's fun to say it like that, is rocking the Tyrants of Blood. Oh no, not rocking the Tyrants of Blood. Sorry, this list has changed. List has changed, and I kind of like that. Okay, sorry, I fucking thought this list was going to be one thing. It done did me good. It done did me dirty. So we're looking at a Bloodthirster, a Bloodsecrator, a Bloodstoker, and a Slaughter Priest. So it's the Dark Feast formation. So 3 Tens of Blood Readers, a War Shrine, 5 Wrathmongers, the Wrath Axe, the Hex Gorger Skulls. But then this is the bit that tickles me. 7 Korgoraths. 7 Korgoraths. I would like to know if this man possesses 7 Korgoraths. That is insane. Why does he have 7 Korgoraths? What possible reason could he have that he was sitting there and he was like, you know what I don't have enough of? I don't have enough Korgoraths. I need more Korgoraths. That's an unnecessary amount. So yeah, okay, good. Good to know. That's like, you know what, just fuck off everything else. The Blood Reavers are chaff. The War Shrine's there to buff stuff up. That's kind of cool. The Wrathmongers are scary, but yeah, Wrathmongers. Endless spell, they're not spells. Endless prayers are actually savages. But 7 Korg, fuck me, I need to take a breather. We are definitely back in 2017. LLV, crank up the time machine because I done fucked something up and we need to go back and fix it because that isn't the way that this is supposed to happen. Now it's Riley, sorry. Riley is running the Tyrants of Blood and the Gore Pilgrims individually by themselves. 2 great formations. Put them together and it's like putting peanut butter with a little bit of chocolate. You've got to murder the people that came up with it in the first place, but then you get to enjoy the benefits of it. So standard stuff for the Gore Pilgrims being Blood Reavers, Blood Warriors, Bloodsecrator, a couple of Slaughter Priests, and then the 3 Thirsters. I dig that it's one of each Thirster now as well. This is heaps cooler than when it was just like 3 of the same Bloodthirster. You're like, yeah, fuck you, you're boring. So this is kind of cool. And again, Hex Gorger Skulls and Wrath Axe, because they're the 2 kind of most versatile, I think. And they do a lot of, they bring a lot of hate, which is always, it's what you want to see, right? Like you don't want to be coming in too soft. Now, where's that? So there's only 2 more to do. The second last one is the one with Vorgorath the Skarden Skarlock, the Skull Host of Khorne, the big fucking dragon. So treat yourself if you haven't seen it. Go to Forge World, find the biggest fucking thing they've got on the site outside of a Warlord Titan. Actually, arguably, this is probably about the same size as a Warlord Titan. It's just long and flat. Like a Warlord, not a Warlord, you know what I mean. It's awesome. It's a massive model. It's so heavy that if the table isn't well supported, you will see it buckle underneath its weight. The one thing I don't like is the bloke on the back riding the dragon makes 12 attacks. Now, how does he have the speed for 12 attacks? And his axe is really short. So how does he hit you with it? Like, does he climb down off the dragon every turn, chop you up a bit, and then climb back up and pretend that that's what he was doing the whole time? No, I don't think so. Pretty like chunky here. Hexgorgeous Skulls and Wrathax again because it's 100 points of greatness. There's a War Shrine in there just to make sure that the Skull Host is getting their little their durability going on there. Blood Secrete, a couple of Slaughter Priests, and as every 1200 point dragon taking army will tell you, you need minimum battle lines, so 3 tens of Blood Reavers. This would be another cool matchup against Lugnuts' 3 Holy Bananas Magma Dragon lists. So yeah, that'd be wicked. It would be kind of cool to see there's so many dragon armies coming. I want to see the Magmadroths go against this. I want to see the Magma Dragons go against this and the Magmadroths. It's what we need to see. It's what we the people demand. Let's put the dragons to the test and let's see who gets there. The Ward save, Wyatt, Alex, Ryan, Daniel. That is great. I saw that. I saw the gaming group in there and I was like, that's freaking wicked. So yeah, digging it. And last but not least, the last one that we have, it's called the Blood Crusade. And I have a special place in my heart for anyone who names all of their characters. So first of all, the general of this Khorne army is a Khorne Lord on Juggernaut named Sir Grail Warcall. There's a Blood Secretor who's the Herald of the Crusade, of course. There's a Slaughter Priest who is Father Sebastian. Great. I want him to sit me down and give me fatherly advice. It's like, Father, I'm just struggling. I'm having a really, really tough time. And he's like, have you tried cutting the heads off your opponents? And you're like, fuck. You have cut me to the core. You get me. And then he probably touches you inappropriately. But I really like that it's named that. There's a Slaughter Priest called the Carnifex, which is great because Carnifexes were a thing before they were a thing in 40k. And there's a Bloodstoker who's the Confessor because obviously he whips you and punishes you. There's Blood Warriors that are Sebastian's Crusaders. So they are named for the Slaughter Priest. They help out him. There's a couple of units of Blood Reavers that are all just called Men-at-Arms because obviously they don't fucking matter. There's 6 Skull Crushers. When was the last time you saw Skull Crushers? They're Grail's Knights. They're the knights that rock with the Lord of Khorne on Jugger. There is a Chaos War Shrine called the Communion of War. It's the Gore Pilgrims, Hexgorgeous Skulls and Wrathax because of course there's a Skull Altar because of course there is. I just love that this army is rocking out a big, wicked fucking like crusade style Khorne. And one of the things that I think people forget about Khorne is while there are the blood mad, stabby warriors who just want to cut your head off, there's a big part of Khorne that is based around finding the toughest opponents and beating them to prove your worth, to prove your might and your worthiness. It's not just they're not all blood mad. There's actually a little bit of stuff there. So I'm super keen to hear it. Lugnut's saying that it's heavily converted to look like knights, which I can't fucking wait to see. Cool Bunny dropping off. See you all at Attack X. Take it easy. Catch you there. Frenchie70 asking, you're new here, do we cover much 40k? So I don't, not yet, might do soon, but on a Thursday, we do a show on the Honest Wargamer, but it's a couple of hours earlier from when I start, and it's a 40k show hosted by the UK blokes, Rob, Nikos, and Tom. Really cool 40k show, quite competitive and stuff, but then also a lot of lore and things. So yeah, check it out. That's on a Thursday. I'm looking at learning a bit of 40k, so we'll see. But also, if you feel like getting into Age of Sigmar, we can definitely tickle you in the right place if you've got your fantasy stuff. Also, the bloke playing that Khorne list is his name's Daniel, and that's just a good name. That's a solid name. It's possibly the best name. But yeah, for those of you who are going to be there, Gun Mage asking, where do you find the lists? At the moment, the lists have been revealed for the players. We're going to potentially collect them and put them together. We're going to put them together for people to then look at as well. And later this week, if all goes according to plan, we're going to bring you the round 1 matchups. So we'll talk about live, pull the pairings, talk about the combos, and we'll go there. But look, that's it from us today. Now, chat. We always finish the show with one very important question. Obviously, we ask the hard-hitting and intense question, so please make sure you've got your drinks ready because we do need to talk about this. Now, it usually comes down to finding out who in Orcs is the answer. Lugnuts to Mad, already there. Orcs is the answer. Now, who in their high school play played someone of the opposite gender and took it way too seriously. So I don't know if everyone out there went to a same sex, like a single sex high school or not, but invariably when you went, there was always like a drama class or an English class, and you'd be doing Romeo and Juliet, or you'd be doing something. Someone had to play the other part, and there was always one person who wasn't really intense about it, but like like the rest of the class, but when they got that opportunity, they just took it like a little bit too far, and you were like, it's not good acting anymore. You're making me uncomfortable because I feel like you're too intense about this. You know, let's just say that. Let's just say who took it too intensely. Because I remember there was one kid in my school who was playing like Shakespeare and had this death scene, and straight up like death rattle, gargling, all of that. And we were just all sitting there like, please stop. Just give us a breath. So let's do that. Let's do that. That's a bit easier as well. Which character from all of the mortal realms took their high school drama class too seriously? Where, like, because I mean, I will admit that I may have done that once. I had to play a mother in a high school drama, and I wore the dress, I pinched one of my mum's bras, I filled it with socks, and I've got to say that I gave a pretty convincing Mrs. Kensington. And in hindsight, I took it way too seriously, and I probably shouldn't have, because there was definitely a way to do that without making it as weird as I did. So who do we think would have gone that far and just made it like awkward? It's like, okay, it's like the person who is too serious at karaoke. Lugnuts to Mad, orcs being the answer probably sounds right. Mr. Mephisto, you had a cross-dressing gimmick when you were an indie wrestler. That's wicked. And I mean, like, I don't want to reveal too much about my history, but I get around pretty good in a pair of heels and fishnets from a job that I used to do a long time ago. So I can appreciate that if you were having to wear heels or some kind of wedge while wrestling, that would be an absolute nightmare. But yeah, LLV saying Nagash would have taken, definitely. Nagash so took it. Archaon possibly a close second. I don't know about Archaon though, because potentially Archaon I think might have been the one sitting at the back who was like, yeah, no, I don't even, no, I'm just here because it's a bludge. But then like secretly really wanted to be Romeo, and then when he didn't get the role, he was like, oh no, that's so disappointing. Drycha, so definitely. I can see Drycha getting heavy into it. And then also Drycha would berate herself over a poor performance afterwards. She'd be like, why? You had that moment and you just let it slip away. I was right there and I just couldn't cry. And they're like, Drycha, you don't have tear ducts. You're a spirit. You can't physically cry. And she's like, I know. Why do you have to remind me? Double X2 dealer, you're trans, so there was a lot of acting as the other gender. Fair, but I guess that means that to be fair, you're probably decent at it in both sides then, because you're like the Blade of people. For those of you who don't know who Blade is like half vampire, half human. They call him the Day Walker because he can walk in the day. Double 2 dealer, regardless of what you may have chosen to settle on, the side that you fell down and felt most comfortable in, and that was you walk both the worlds. You are Blade, you are the Daywalker. I can get around in heels, but I definitely can't make myself look any good in them. I have terrible calves, it's a nightmare. But yeah, Lugnuts to Mad, you feel like the Wergod Prophet would be Bugs. Oh yeah, right. Like the Wergog Prophet would be like the Bugs Bunny, you know, in like the opera kind of scenes and things like that. Like, but I think that's very self-aware though. Bugs knew what was going on. The Wergog Prophet definitely doesn't have that level of intelligence to know. Thorgrim Sigvald, 100%. But the thing about Sigvald is Sigvald would give an amazing performance. Like if Sigvald was playing Juliet, everyone in the theatre would be brought to tears. Yes, he would take it too seriously, but he would devastate you. The new Death Mortark bloke. Yeah, Death Mortark bloke sits there and talks about what he does. Like he's like, oh yes, this one time I played Macbeth and it was great. Double Two Dealer saying there'd be a bad actor ogre man-eater. Oh my gosh. Can someone please do that? Like a man-eater theatre company where all of these man-eaters are just like dressing up, and because there's the lady man-eater as well, who, fun fact, that model came with like, you could choose to model it with a beard, and the lady man-eater's beard was actually a clip-on. Like it wasn't a real beard. Lady ogres don't grow beards. She just had it because she's like, it's good to be able to disguise myself as a man sometimes. And I'm like, that's so insane that like, you've seen if you haven't seen the female ogre man-eater model, she's quite voluptuous. She's wearing a lovely little dress thing. I think I'm not really good with fashion. Fishnets and boots, and like ponytail as well. Quite pouty lips. Good little bit of mascara and makeup going on there as well. So I love the idea that, you know, like when Clark Kent like puts on glasses and everyone's like, oh, I wonder who Superman is. And he's like, I have no idea. For her, it's like this. She's just like staring at an ogre man-eater, and then she goes, they're like, oh, Bill, there you are. And then she's like, Sandy, where did you come from? So yeah, I could definitely see that. I want to see an ogre man-eater production company's performance of like Fiddler on the Roof or something, or Hamilton. Ogre man-eater production of Hamilton, that would be a thing. Vanilla just asks, Techless, but he wasn't acting. Yeah, Techless takes everything way too seriously. Like, I built you these penumbral engines. They will help you learn the ways of the world. Fuck off. We're going to make them creepy. Techless is good. Manfred, again, Manfred comes up, and I think it's fair, because I think I think what we've established is that Manfred's just a tortured soul. Just that poor bloke getting absolutely wrecked. And he's got it tough. He's got a hard life. I mean, he destroyed an entire planet. That's got to hang on him a little bit. And also, he knows that he's like everyone's last favorite. And that's got to be tough. Like, I'm the second favorite out of 2 children in my family. So I am coming last no matter what. And I've been told that to my face. Like, I'm completely aware of it. So, yeah, to be fair, I think that Manfred is definitely there, but definitely worth it. He's cops it, and it's not fair. Poor bloke. I'm just saying that for Clint's benefit. I think Manfred's a piece of trash, but let's just keep that between you and me, because Clint from the Heralds of War absolutely loves him. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for another evening. It's time to say goodbye. Now, potentially keep your eye on Twitter, because if we are going to be bringing you another show later this week with the pairings for Attack X, see where everybody fell out. That'll probably be towards Thursday or even Friday, the night before the event. But thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. If you are having a drink, cheers. Let's finish them all together. It's been lovely to see you all again. And yeah, take care of yourselves. Have a good time. And if for any reason you ever find yourself in a forest fire, just the advice that I would give, the one thing you can do to keep yourself safe, is try to find a place that you can